The tunnel sloped downward into darkness, the air turning thick with moisture, and the earth beneath their boots uneven and slick. Strange, faded glyphs lined the stone walls, etched in forgotten tongues that pulsed faintly under the torchlight. Serena ran her fingers across the markings, her voice barely above a whisper. These symbols, they weren't made by any tribe I know. Asher didn't break stride. We're not here to interpret history. Stay sharp. Then, a low, guttural growl reverberated through the stone corridor. Serena froze. That wasn't a beast or a man. Ronan's grip on his dagger tightened. We're not alone. Something stirred in the darkness. A hulking figure emerged, twisted, malformed, hunched beneath the crumbling ceiling. Glowing yellow eyes snapped open like lanterns igniting in the void. Intruders, it rasped. A thunderous roar exploded through the tunnel. The walls trembled. Dust rained from above as the creature lurched forward, ancient, massive, and terrible. A forgotten guardian. A relic entombed beneath Myad City, a beast of rot and bone shackled by curses older than memory. Now awakened, and angry. Serena's daggers hissed from their sheaths. Tell me we're not fighting that. Ronan stepped back, grim. We're fighting that. Asher's crimson eyes glowed. No choice. The guardian surged forward, far too fast for its size. The ground split with a deafening boom as it slammed a clawed arm into the earth where Asher had just been. Shit! He hissed, dodging to the side. Serena flipped away, landing lightly. It's fast. Ronan hurled a dagger at its eye. Ping! It bounced harmlessly off the guardian's thick hide. No good. We can't scratch it with normal weapons. Asher raised his palm, blood spiraling into a spear. With a sharp flick, he launched it at the beast's chest. Crack! The impact echoed through the tunnel, slamming into the guardian's torso. It didn't flinch. Instead, the runes across its decaying body flared. Asher's blood spear crumbled into mist. It's absorbing attacks, he muttered. Ronan swore. Magic resistant too? The beast stepped closer, exhaling a withered gust of breath. Its yellow eyes locked onto Asher. Blood magic. A cursed one walks among mortals. Asher's eyes narrowed. It can talk. The guardian's voice was like crumbling stone. Not all blood is worthy. Then, crash. The tunnel behind them collapsed, sealing the exit in an avalanche of stone and dust. Serena spun around. No. We're trapped. Ronan's jaw clenched. Great. Asher stood his ground. Then we fight. But the guardian didn't attack. It stared, unmoving. Prove yourself. Serena hissed, I really don't like where this is going. Asher stepped forward. Fine, he said. I'll prove it. The guardian charged. Asher's blood exploded outward, twisting, surging, coiling into chains. They lashed out, wrapping the creature's legs, pulling tight like crimson serpents. The guardian stumbled. Serena saw her chance. She launched upward, blades gleaming. Slash. Her daggers carved into its throat, only to be met by a burst of force that hurled her backward. It's resisting everything. Asher realized it. It's not fighting them. It's only focused on me. He closed his eyes. And let go. His blood no longer surged like a weapon, it flowed like breath. Smooth, rhythmic. Like a heartbeat. Like life itself. The guardian stilled. Its eyes flickered. Then slowly, it knelt. You are worthy. Serena exhaled, stunned. Did that just happen? Ronan blinked. It submitted to you? Before Asher could answer. Voices. Footsteps. Weapons clinking. At the edge of the collapsed tunnel, they arrived. 12 warriors clad in red and steel, led by a man in blood-colored robes. The Blood Cross. There you are, their priest leader sneered. The guardian's yellow eyes flared. Asher smiled coldly. Guess we're not trapped anymore. Chapter, Blood and Stone. The priest of the Blood Cross stepped forward, torchlight reflecting in his crimson robes. We finally caught you, cursed one, he sneered. Serena edged closer to Asher. What now? Asher's smirk widened. We kill them. The first warrior charged, blade glowing gold with divine enchantment. He never reached Asher. A crimson lash of blood snapped through the air, slash. His arm fell to the floor in a spray of blood. A second warrior, a mage, cast a holy spear of light. It shattered against Asher's blood barrier. Before the mage could react. Crunch. The guardian was there, gripping the mage's head. A brief scream.
Silence. Serena blurred forward. Slash.
A silent archer fell, throat opened cleanly. Ronan moved through shadows, striking with deadly precision.
They were winning.
Until the priest raised his hand.
Kneel.
A crushing force slammed down on them. Serena collapsed to one knee, gasping.
Ronan stumbled. Asher stood firm. Bones creaked.
But he refused to kneel.
You resist? The priest asked. Pointless. The pressure increased.
Even the Guardian wavered.
But then, roar.
The Guardian's runes flared, a blinding light filling the tunnel.
The weight shattered. The priest staggered. What? Boom.
The Guardian's fist shattered the stone beneath the priest's feet. Defy me. The priest roared, holy energy crackling.
I'll.
Crack. A crimson spear tore through his shoulder. The priest fell to one knee. Asher stood before him, eyes glowing like twin stars. You forgot something. The blood inside the priest trembled.
I don't kneel. Squelch.
The priest's heart burst within his chest.
He collapsed, lifeless.
The remaining Blood Cross soldiers turned.
And ran. Aftermath.
Serena stood slowly, blood dripping from her lips.
You okay? She asked. Asher flexed his shoulder. Better than them.
Ronan chuckled weakly. You're terrifying. The Guardian stepped forward and bowed. You tamed an ancient undead monster, Serena said flatly.
Asher just grinned. Looks like it. She sighed.
Of course you did. Ronan shook his head. We need to rename you to Trouble. Asher turned toward the tunnel. We head for Myad City.
Now. Behind him, the Guardian followed. Silent. Loyal. Bound. A new ally. A darker reputation.
And far greater enemies awaiting them. The trio returned to the inn under the veil of dusk, their steps slower than usual. The silence between them was not out of tension, but sheer exhaustion. Asher sealed the Guardian within his shadow grave, the ancient beast vanishing into crimson smoke. It was better that way for now. Ronan collapsed into a chair, groaning. I say we play rabbits for a bit.
You mean hide? Asher asked. Ronan nodded.
Exactly. After what we pulled, the Blood Cross will be scrambling, shifting hideouts, setting traps, maybe even retreating to safer zones. If I'm to track them again, I'll need time. Assuming they aren't baiting us already, Serena added, arms folded. Which is why we don't strike immediately, Ronan replied. Give me a few days. If I find a lead that doesn't reek of a setup, I'll call you. Then we'll hit them hard. Asher gave a half-smile. Sounds like a plan. Ronan stood, stretching.
Get some rest. I'll start hunting tonight.
He disappeared into his room, leaving Asher and Serena alone in the dimly lit common room of the inn.
Come on, Serena yawned.
We deserve a little sleep.
Asher nodded.
They barely made it to their beds before exhaustion took hold. Sleep came fast, dreamless, and heavy.
The next morning.
Sunlight bled through the wooden shutters, painting golden bars across the floor. Asher and Serena rose early refreshed, and made their way downstairs for a light breakfast, bread, eggs, and watered-down juice.
They didn't speak much.
Their silence wasn't awkward, it was comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. After finishing their meal, they made their way to the guild hall. The building buzzed with energy, adventurers clustered around quest boards, trading rumors, boasting about hunts, and whispering about strange happenings near Earl Leo's borders. Serena approached the quest board, scanning it with curious eyes. Anything interesting? Asher flipped through the posted parchments. Mostly standard fare. Boar culling, material gathering, escort work. We need something quiet, but productive, Serena reminded him. We can't afford to draw attention, not until Ronan's ready. Asher's hand paused on a new piece of parchment. The ink was still fresh.
Urgent request.
A dungeon has emerged near the border of Earl Leo's territory. Multiple scout teams are missing.
Threat level uncertain. Caution advised.
Reward variable, based on findings and threat subjugation. Serena leaned over his shoulder.
A dungeon?
That's rare. Especially one that just appears, Asher murmured. That doesn't happen without a cause. You think it's connected to the Blood Cross?
Could be.
Or it might just be a coincidence, an unstable mana rupture. Either way, Serena said, a spark in her eye, it's dangerous, mysterious, and worth investigating.
Perfect.
They brought the request to the front desk, where a young elf woman greeted them. Her eyes were a clear ice blue, and her voice was calm despite the buzz around her. "Dungeon request?" she asked, taking the paper. "It was discovered 3 days ago near the southern cliffs of Earl Leo's lands. A mercenary team went in, never came out. Since then, we've lost contact with 3 more scouting parties." Serena raised a brow.
No survivors? No reports? None.
"The only thing we know is from our mages. They say the mana fluctuations around the dungeon spike randomly. Sometimes it reads like a C rank, sometimes A rank." "A fluctuation that large means instability," Asher muttered. "Which means the dungeon hasn't settled yet."
The elf nodded. "That's our assumption. Proceed with caution."
"We're classifying it as a C rank minimum, but we wouldn't be surprised if something worse is brewing inside." Asher and Serena exchanged a glance.
"We'll take it," Asher said.
The receptionist handed over a guild seal to confirm their participation.
"Return alive, please. Too many haven't." Serena smirked.
"We're not the dying kind." Hours later, dungeon perimeter. They arrived near the dungeon's edge just as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the warped landscape. The forest near Earl Leo's land had changed, trees twisted unnaturally, birds had vanished, and the air pulsed with unstable magic. At the center of the disruption was the dungeon, a swirling vortex of black mist, suspended in midair like a wound in reality. Serena shivered. "This place feels wrong." Asher's eyes glowed faintly as he surveyed the scene.
"Because it is.
Dungeons don't form naturally this fast. Something forced this." He stepped closer, sensing the distortion.
"It's not just raw mana.
It's warping perception."
Serena frowned. "An illusion-type dungeon?"
"Most likely," Asher said. "Which makes it worse. Illusion dungeons don't just mess with what you see, they mess with your mind." Serena took a steadying breath. "So we could step inside and lose all sense of reality?"
"Exactly." "Fun." Asher didn't smile. "Don't worry.
My absolute appraisal makes me immune to false perception."
"Lucky you," she muttered. "All right.
Let's do this."
They stepped into the mist. And the world shifted.
Inside the mirage. Gone was the vortex, the forest, and the noise of the wind. They now stood in a tranquil meadow, glowing with bioluminescent blue flowers. A gentle breeze whispered strange voices through the tall grass, while above them, a false sky shimmered, deep violet, spattered with silver stars that pulsed like veins in a canvas.
But everything felt off. The air was too still.
The colors too perfect. The stars too symmetrical. Serena whispered, "It's beautiful, and completely fake."
Asher nodded, eyes sharp.
"Nothing here is what it seems." Their adventure into the illusion had begun. And whatever created this dungeon, whether ancient force or blood-cross sorcery, was waiting for them in the heart of the lies.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
The moment they entered, the world shifted. Instead of the dark cave-like interior they expected, they found themselves standing in a vast, open field filled with glowing blue flowers. A soft wind blew, carrying whispers of voices neither of them recognized. The sky above was deep purple, speckled with silver stars, but something about it felt fake, as if it were a painted ceiling rather than an actual sky. Serena looked around warily. "This isn't real, is it?" Asher crouched and touched the grass.
It felt real. Smelled real.
But his instincts screamed otherwise.
"No," he said.
"This dungeon is toying with us." Suddenly, the flowers around them withered instantly, and the once beautiful field turned into a desolate wasteland. The sky cracked, revealing a swirling void beyond it. A deep chuckle echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. "Welcome, travelers. Shall we play a game?" The voice was smooth, confident, and mocking. Serena pulled out her daggers.
"Great. A talking dungeon." Asher's expression darkened. "No. That's not the dungeon. That's the boss."
A flickering shadow appeared in front of them. It had no true form. One second it was a tall humanoid, the next it was a mass of swirling mist. Its presence distorted the air, making it difficult to focus on its true shape. "I am the Phantom King. And in my realm, nothing is as it seems." The ground beneath them suddenly disappeared, and they began to fall, except they weren't falling at all. One moment, they were standing. The next, they were walking upside down on an invisible surface.
Serena clenched her teeth.
"This is going to be a pain, isn't it?" "Explore more at my virtual library empire." Asher smirked slightly,
despite the situation. Yeah.
But that just makes it more fun.
Nah.
First defeat my minions, Phantom King said and vanished from sight as Asher and looked at each others. Let's go deep inside, he said as Serena followed after him. Illusion Tyrant, rank A+. The monster let out a guttural growl, and in an instant, the entire room transformed. The walls vanished, replaced by an endless void of darkness. The ground beneath them crumbled away, making it seem as if they were falling into nothingness. Serena gasped, instinctively reaching out for balance. Damn it, it's warping reality again. Not really, Asher said calmly. His eyes locked onto the monster, his absolute appraisal skill cutting through the illusion. He still saw the solid ground beneath their feet, the real walls of the dungeon, and the true form of the monster. The illusion tyrant roared again, this time creating dozens of clones of itself, each appearing just as real as the original. Serena gritted her teeth. Which one is real? Asher didn't even hesitate. He dashed forward and swung his sword straight through the real body of the monster, ignoring all the illusions. A deep gash appeared across its torso, and the false copies flickered out of existence. Serena's eyes widened.
You can see it?
Told you, Asher said with a smirk. Illusions don't work on me. The monster screeched in rage and unleashed a wave of distorted energy, trying to overwhelm his senses with a stronger illusion. The ground turned into a pit of writhing hands, reaching out to drag them down. The sky above cracked open, revealing horrifying, shifting faces whispering madness. Serena staggered, barely holding on. This thing is insane. Asher, however, simply walked forward, unimpressed. Enough of this. He raised his hand, and blood-red energy surged around him. With a wave of his arm, his blood control ability sent crimson chains wrapping around the monster's real body, binding it in place. The illusions wavered as its concentration broke. With the monster now vulnerable, Serena regained her footing. Time to finish it. She lunged forward, her daggers coated in flames, and stabbed directly into its chest. The creature let out a final, agonized shriek before dissolving into nothingness. Damn, if the minion was this stronger, then just how strong is the Phantom King? She asked. The monster minion was an A+ rank. Probably an S rank or higher, Asher said as he looked at the minions. The Phantom King, judging from the way it talks and its speech pattern, is definitely an S rank or above monster. They continued walking deeper into the dungeon, encountering more of the Phantom King's minions along the way. Each one was stronger than the last, but Asher and Serena cut them down swiftly, leaving a trail of defeated enemies behind them. After an intense battle, they finally reached the final chamber. A massive throne sat in the middle of the dark room, surrounded by eerie blue flames flickering in the air. Atop the throne sat a tall, ghostly figure wrapped in tattered black robes. A dark crown rested upon its head, and its glowing red eyes locked onto them the moment they stepped inside. Phantom King, rank S+. The temperature in the room dropped instantly. A chilling voice echoed through the chamber. You are finally here, he said, chuckling. Asher and Serena stood their ground as the world around them twisted once more. The Phantom King laughed, his voice echoing from all directions.
Confused? Good.
In my realm, perception is weakness. Lose yourself, and you lose everything. Serena tensed, gripping her daggers. This bastard is really enjoying himself. Asher exhaled sharply.
Of course he is.
He knows illusions are hard to fight. The Phantom King suddenly split into dozens of copies, surrounding them in a perfect circle. Each one moved in sync, their indistinct forms shifting between humanoid and mist. Serena cursed under her breath. I can't tell which one is real. You don't have to. Asher's eyes gleamed as he extended his hand. From his palm, droplets of blood lifted into the air. They hovered momentarily before shooting out in every direction, splattering against each Phantom King copy.
One of them flinched. The real one.
Got you. Before the boss could react, Asher dashed forward, conjuring a blood spear in an instant. With a precise strike, he pierced the Phantom King's chest, only for the spear to pass through like mist.
Tisk.
Before the boss could react, Asher dashed forward, conjuring a blood spear in an instant. With a precise strike, he pierced the Phantom King's chest, only for the spear to pass through like mist.
Tisk.
The Phantom King chuckled.
Clever.
But not clever enough. The illusionary copies vanished, and suddenly, Asher wasn't standing next to Serena anymore. He was alone in an endless white void.
Serena was gone. The dungeon was gone.
Just nothingness. You think your blood magic can see through my domain? The Phantom King's voice was softer now, almost inside his head.
You're wrong.
You can't escape from what isn't real.
Asher didn't reply. He simply closed his eyes. Then, he stabbed himself.
A thin line of blood ran down his arm as he reopened his eyes. The void shattered like glass, revealing the true battlefield once more. Serena was fighting off copies of the Phantom King, struggling to keep up with their erratic movements.
Asher smirked.
I don't need to escape illusions. I just need to remind myself what's real.
Blood was real. Pain was real.
His control over it couldn't be faked. He flicked his wrist, sending hundreds of thin blood needles into the air. They spread like a storm, targeting every single Phantom King. The fake ones dissolved instantly. The real Phantom King staggered back, hissing. Serena took her chance. She dashed forward in a blur, flames igniting on her daggers. Let's see if you can trick me when you're burning. Find exclusive stories on my virtual library empire. She slashed downward, and fire erupted around the Phantom King. He howled as the flames engulfed him, his form struggling to maintain shape. No, this is my world, my rules. Asher stepped forward, his expression cold. Then I'll break them. With a sharp motion, he extended his hand, and the blood from his previous attacks wrapped around the Phantom King's body like chains. He tightened his grip. The Phantom King screamed as the blood constricted, pulling him toward Asher. Serena didn't hesitate. She leapt forward, driving both her daggers straight through his chest.
Game over.
The Phantom King let out one final distorted scream before his body exploded into mist, fading from existence.
The dungeon trembled.
The illusions flickered, breaking apart. The Phantom Labyrinth was collapsing.
Escape. Serena wiped her forehead.
We killed him, but the dungeon's falling apart.
Asher nodded. Then we leave. Now.
A glowing exit formed in the distance. Without hesitation, they sprinted toward it. As the last remnants of the Phantom Labyrinth crumbled, Asher and Serena leaped through the portal, landing back in the real world just as the dungeon behind them vanished. Jumping out of the portal, they landed on the ground outside. A stone slab lay beneath them, marking the dungeon's entrance.
Ahaha. Ha-ha.
Both of them burst into laughter, looking at each other. Ha, that was insanely fun, Asher said, still catching his breath. Serena nodded, grinning. You know, I think I'm starting to get addicted to all your craziness. Before Asher could reply, a voice interrupted them. You guys alive? They turned around to see a beautiful girl standing nearby, accompanied by a group of soldiers in solid armor. Asher raised an eyebrow. What does it look like? The girl crossed her arms, unimpressed. Like you two have lost your minds. Asher smirked, shaking his head. Maybe. The girl sighed, then gestured to the soldiers behind her.
Come with us.
The knights need to hear about what happened in that dungeon. They followed after the girl, who introduced herself as the daughter of Earl Leo, the noble overseeing the territory where the Phantom Dungeon had appeared. She led them to her estate, which, like any noble house, was grand and lavish. As they stepped inside, Asher glanced around before smirking. Would you be mad if I said mine was 1,000 times better than this? The noble girl rolled her eyes. Don't try to impress me. We come from completely different worlds. I am not going to lower myself to love someone like you, a mere commoner. Her voice was filled with arrogance and disdain. Asher tilted his head slightly but said nothing. He briefly considered teasing her but noticed that the knights accompanying her were already glaring at him. Deciding it wasn't worth the trouble, he simply straightened himself. Believe it or not, I wasn't talking to you. Asher said nonchalantly. Serena, walking beside him, just smiled. I believe you. When we found you, you were wearing very nice clothes. Asher nodded in agreement. You really are the best. Serena just smiled, while the noble girl scoffed and turned away, leading them further inside. The noble girl led them through the grand hallways of her estate, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. Servants and knights stood at attention as they passed, their gazes lingering on Asher and Serena, clearly wary of the outsiders. Finally, they arrived in a luxurious sitting room adorned with fine velvet curtains and a chandelier that shimmered in the dim candlelight. The girl gestured for them to sit, while she gracefully took her own seat on an ornate chair. Let's get straight to the point, she said, folding her arms. The Phantom Dungeon that has appeared near my father's territory is unlike anything we've seen before. It's unstable, dangerous, and, most importantly, it wasn't there before. We suspect it's an anomaly. Asher leaned back in his chair.
An anomaly?
You mean a dungeon that doesn't follow the usual rules?
The girl nodded. Correct.
Unlike normal dungeons that are formed naturally, this one seemingly appeared out of thin air. It distorts space and has an incredibly powerful illusion-type monster as its boss. Many skilled adventurers have already attempted to clear it, but most of them never returned.
Serena frowned.
What about the ones who did return? The noble girl's expression darkened. They came back either mad or broken. Some completely lost their minds, others couldn't even recognize their own families. The healers say it's not a curse, but something far worse. A nightmare they can't escape from. The noble girl's expression darkened. They came back either mad or broken. Some completely lost their minds, others couldn't even recognize their own families. The healers say it's not a curse, but something far worse. A nightmare they can't escape from. She then added, eyeing them, "We want you to clear it," she said. "And we already did it, killed the boss and even saw it dying," Asher said. The noble lady shook her head. "It has been cleared that way many times. My father Earl Leo has done it himself, but it was never truly cleared. That's why we believe there is a hidden floor with the real boss."
She leaned forward.
"I want you to defeat it and clear that dungeon for us. It will reform after 24 hours. Asher immediately shook his head.
"No." "What?" she asked in shock. Asher crossed his arms. "First of all, if you're asking for our help, don't act like you're ordering us." "You think I'm going to beg you to clear it?" she asked angrily. Asher shook his head. "Nope."
"But at least ask politely." He stood up, clearly uninterested in wasting more time. Serena sighed, following after him. "You think you can just walk out like this?" the noble lady sneered. Asher didn't even look back. Instead, as an eerie breeze filled the room, his presence vanished like a phantom. A moment later, a trail of blood formed into words on the ground, spelling out a single message. "Just did that, bitch." Lina was a noble lady born into the esteemed Stemmen family. From a young age, she understood her superior standing over those of lower status. She took great pride in her nobility, believing that commoners should feel fortunate even to serve her. Never in her life had anyone dared to defy her. No one had ever denied her anything. To her, commoners were nothing more than tools, grateful for whatever scraps she tossed their way. But now, a mere commoner had just dodged her attack, denied her request, mocked her, and worst of all, had the audacity to call her a bitch in bloodied writing. Her face twisted in fury, her hands clenching into fists as her entire body shook. "I will get you, Asher," she screamed, no longer caring about her noble dignity. Back on the road, Asher and Serena rode two flaming horse-like monsters, borrowed from the guild. Their hooves scorched the ground with each step as they galloped away from Earl Leo's territory, heading back toward the city. Serena glanced at Asher, frowning. "Are you sure we should have done that?" Asher scoffed, his eyes gleaming with anger. If she needed help, she should have learned how to ask for it properly. Serena sighed, shaking her head. "You really enjoy pissing off nobles, don't you?" "Only the arrogant ones," Asher replied, kicking his mount into a faster pace. "Stay connected through my virtual library empire." Serena rolled her eyes but followed after him, the two disappearing into the distance as the fiery trails of their mounts slowly faded behind them. As they rode toward the city, the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the landscape. The fiery hooves of their mounts left behind faint embers that flickered in the wind before vanishing into the darkness. Serena glanced at Asher.
"So, what now?"
"Are we just ignoring that dungeon?"
Asher shrugged.
"It'll respawn in 24 hours. If someone else clears it before then, great. If not, we'll decide what to do later." "And if that noble girl comes after us?"
Serena asked. Asher smirked.
"Then she's welcome to try. But I doubt she has the strength to actually do anything." Serena sighed. "You really know how to make enemies, don't you?" "I only make enemies out of people who deserve it," Asher replied nonchalantly. The city lights soon came into view, the towering walls and busy streets signaling their return to civilization. As they approached the gates, the guards recognized their guild insignias and let them pass without much trouble. Once inside, Asher pulled the reins of his mount, bringing it to a stop near the guild building. Serena did the same, sighing in relief as she hopped down. Finally, some rest. Asher nodded, stretching his arms. "Yeah, but first, let's check if there are any new quests. If we're going to kill time, we might as well make some money while we're at it." As they entered the guild hall, the familiar sight of adventurers drinking, laughing, and discussing their quests filled the air. The scent of ale and roasted meat mixed with the slight metallic tang of blood from returning hunters. Serena nudged Asher. "You check the quest board." "I'll grab us something to eat." Asher nodded, making his way toward the large wooden board where various requests were posted. His eyes scanned the parchment papers, looking for something worth his time. Available quests. Urgent request. Missing caravan. A merchant's caravan has vanished near the Ravenspire woods. Investigate and recover any lost goods. Beast subjugation. Crimson Fong wolves. A pack of enhanced wolves is terrorizing villages near the southern border. Eliminate them. Bounty hunt. The Silver Mask. A rogue assassin has been spotted in the capital. The noble families are offering a reward for their capture or elimination. Asher continued to look at the numerous quests before finally pulling one off the board. This will do, he muttered as he examined the parchment. Quest accepted. Twin-headed serpent subjugation. Location, Mew Drop Village. Objective, a dangerous twin-headed serpent has appeared near the village, attacking livestock and travelers. Eliminate it before it causes further damage. Reward, 500 gold plus bonus for intact serpent materials. Serena glanced at the quest. A twin-headed serpent? Those are rare. Asher nodded. Which means it's either mutated or something is forcing it to act aggressively. Either way, we handle it. Okay, let's do it. After filling our stomach, she said as he nodded. They went to chair where their food was already on the table. It was standard food with soup, meat and vegetable dish with bread and a glass of beer to go with it, a modest meal commonly found in all adventurer taverns. As Asher and Serena settled into their seats, the warmth of the tavern provided a much-needed comfort after their long ride. The clatter of mugs, laughter of adventurers, and the occasional argument over rewards filled the air, making the guild hall feel alive with energy. Serena took a sip of her beer, sighing as she leaned back. You know, for someone who acts all cold and ruthless, you sure do enjoy a decent meal. Asher shrugged, slicing into the meat with a dagger instead of a knife. Surviving isn't just about fighting. A good meal keeps you alive just as much as a sharp blade. Serena raised an eyebrow. That almost sounded wise. Almost. They ate in relative silence for a while, occasionally glancing at the other adventurers around them. Most were busy with their own conversations, though a few cast wary glances in Asher's direction. Word had clearly spread about his little stunt with Lady Lina. Looks like you've got some attention, Serena noted, tearing a piece of bread. Let them stare. Asher scoffed. If they have a problem, they can say it to my face. Serena rolled her eyes. Or stab you in the back. Asher chuckled. Let them try. Just as they were finishing their meal, a loud crash echoed through the hall as the front doors slammed open. A group of men in finely crafted armor strode in, their insignias marking them as knights of Earl Leo's household. The leader, a tall man with short silver hair and a scar across his jaw, stepped forward, scanning the room until his sharp gaze landed on Asher and Serena. You, he said, voice carrying authority. You're Asher, correct? Asher didn't even bother standing. He took another bite of his food, chewing slowly before finally responding, depends. Who's asking? The knight's brow twitched in irritation. I am Sir Grant of the Stemend Household Guard. By the order of Lady Lina, you are to answer for your disrespect. Serena sighed. That didn't take long. Asher placed his fork down, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand before standing up. He tilted his head, cracking his neck slightly as he met Grant's gaze. And if I don't feel like answering? Grant's hand moved to his sword. Then we take you by force. The tavern went silent. Every adventurer present either leaned in to watch or subtly prepared for a possible fight. Asher smirked, his blood-red eyes gleaming with amusement. You sure you want to do this, Night Boy? Serena discreetly placed a hand on her daggers, her fingers glowing faintly with battle surge magic. Your next read is at my virtual library empire. Grant narrowed his eyes. You can either come peacefully or... Before he could finish, an eerie presence filled the room. The temperature seemed to drop, and the faint smell of blood permeated the air. The shadows around Asher twisted unnaturally, and in the dim tavern light, his silhouette seemed to stretch unervingly. Then, with a flick of his finger, blood from his own palm rose into the air, forming thin, thread-like strands that pulsed with power. They wrapped around his arm like veins of crimson energy. Grant hesitated. His instinct screamed at him. This was no ordinary commoner. Asher's smile widened as his expression turned cold. You were saying? The knight's hand trembled slightly on his sword hilt, but he clenched his jaw, pushing past the sudden wave of intimidation. Your abilities don't scare me, Asher. Asher shrugged. I wasn't trying to scare you. He flicked his wrist, and a single thread of blood shot forward, slicing through Grant's shoulder plate with unnatural ease. A thin line of red appeared on his skin, a warning rather than an attack. Grant's face paled. The rest of his men instinctively reached for their weapons, but before they could act, Serena moved. In a flash, she was standing beside Grant, one of her daggers pressed lightly against his neck. If you're gonna pull a sword on someone, you should at least be fast enough to use it. Her voice was calm, but the cold steel against his throat made her point clear. Grant swallowed hard. The room remained deathly silent. Asher casually sat back down, picking up his drink. Tell Lina that if she wants a rematch, she can come herself. I don't deal with lapdogs. Also tell her if she need helps, she better beg for it now, Asher said in cold voice as Grant glared at him. Serena smirked, stepping back and twirling her dagger before sheathing it. Grant gritted his teeth but ultimately turned to his men. We're leaving. As they retreated, the tension in the room finally eased. The adventurers slowly resumed their conversations, though many were now eyeing Asher and Serena with newfound respect, or fear. Serena let out a deep breath before sitting back down.
That was fun. Asher chuckled.
Let's see if they try again later. But for now.
He glanced at the quest paper.
We've got a twin-headed serpent to kill.
Serena grinned.
Then let's finish up and get moving. With that, they downed the last of their drinks, gathered their gear, and prepared to set off toward Mew Drop Village, where their next hunt awaited. After leaving the guild hall, Asher and Serena retrieved their mounts from the stables, the flaming horse-like creatures snorting embers as they prepared to ride. The journey to Mew Drop Village took several hours, the sun already dipping below the horizon by the time they arrived. The village itself was small, with wooden houses and dirt roads. A few lanterns flickered in the night, casting long shadows as wary villagers peered out from their homes. A middle-aged man, presumably the village head, approached them the moment they dismounted. He had a thick beard, sun-worn skin, and worry deeply etched into his face. You must be the adventurers sent by the guild, he said, eyeing their weapons.
Asher nodded. We took the quest.
Where was the serpent last seen? The village head gestured for them to follow. It lurks near the riverbanks on the outskirts. It's already taken half a dozen livestock, and just last night, it attacked a traveler passing through. We found his body this morning, what was left of it.
He shuddered. Serena frowned.
Was the body intact, or was it partially devoured?
The village head grimaced. The latter.
But not in the way you'd expect. His flesh wasn't torn, he was drained, as if something had sucked the life out of him.
The village head grimaced. The latter.
But not in the way you'd expect. His flesh wasn't torn, he was drained, as if something had sucked the life out of him. Asher and Serena exchanged glances. A twin-headed serpent shouldn't have that kind of ability, Asher muttered.
Something's off. Serena nodded. Could be a mutation.
Or maybe something else is involved. The village head looked between them nervously. Do you still plan to go after it? Asher nodded, his expression calm of course. That's what we're here for. Serena rolled her eyes. We'll take care of it. Just keep your people inside tonight. You should rest and then go for it, village head suggested as Asher shook his head. It's okay, we are in our prime condition, he said as the village head nodded. With that, they made their way toward the riverbank. The moon cast a silver glow over the landscape, reflecting off the dark waters of the river. The air was thick with humidity, and the sound of insects filled the night. Asher crouched near the edge, dipping his fingers into the damp soil.
Tracks. Fresh.
He stood up, his eyes glowing faintly red as he activated his blood ruler ability, sensing the lingering traces of life in the area. Serena unsheathed her daggers, their edges faintly glowing with her magic.
How close?
Serena is an healer, but her father has also trained her to be a fighter, and she is good with daggers, and thanks to her build she is almost unstoppable with it and fast as a rabbit. Asher closed his eyes for a brief moment, feeling the faint traces of blood in the air.
Then he grinned.
Very. A sudden movement in the water caught Serena's eye. Left side, she shouted, flipping backward just as something massive surged out of the river. The twin-headed serpent emerged, its black scales gleaming under the moonlight. Each head had gleaming yellow eyes and sharp fangs dripping with venom. But something was wrong. Its body pulsed with a dark aura, veins of eerie blue light running across its form. Its fangs weren't just venomous, they were glowing, pulsating with something unnatural. Serena's eyes widened. That's not just a twin-headed serpent, it's been corrupted. The serpent hissed, lunging forward with terrifying speed. Asher reacted instantly, raising his hand. With a mere thought, blood from the surrounding air condensed into thin, razor-sharp spears.
Blood spears, release.
The crimson projectiles shot forward, aiming for the serpent's eyes and joints. The serpent twisted midair, dodging most of the spears, but a few grazed its body, drawing dark, inky blood instead of normal red. Serena darted forward, her daggers flashing in the moonlight as she used Surge Step, a high-speed movement technique enhanced by her magic. She struck at the serpent's underbelly, but the moment her blade made contact, a pulse of dark energy blasted outward. Serena was thrown back, rolling across the grass before coming to a stop. Shit, that thing has some kind of defense mechanism. Asher narrowed his eyes. No, it's not defense, it's rejecting normal attacks. Something is influencing it. The serpent roared, lunging toward them again. Asher raised his hands, summoning a blood wall to block the attack, but just before impact, the serpent's eyes flashed, and the wall shattered like glass. Asher's expression darkened. All right. Now you're just pissing me off. Serena stood up, wiping blood from her lip. What's the plan? We need to kill this thing before it drains more life. What else? Asher rolled his eyes as they rushed at it. Your next chapter is on my virtual library empire. The serpent lunged again, but this time, Asher didn't dodge. Instead, he extended his hand, allowing its fangs to sink into his arm. Serena gasped. Asher, what the hell? But Asher grinned. The moment the serpent bit him, its body convulsed violently. His blood ruler ability was overriding the corruption. You suck my blood? Asher whispered, his voice laced with power. Then let's see how you handle mine. The serpent thrashed wildly, its veins pulsing as Asher's blood invaded its system. Serena didn't waste the opportunity. Activating her battle surge, she dashed forward in a blur, both daggers glowing with a fierce blue light. Twin Fong execution. She struck both heads simultaneously, her blades piercing through the corrupted flesh. The serpent let out a final shriek before collapsing, its body convulsing one last time before falling still. Asher pulled his arm free, watching as the inky corruption slowly faded from the corpse. And that's how you kill a corrupted monster. Serena panted, wiping sweat from her brow. Next time, warn me before you let yourself get bitten, idiot. Asher chuckled. Where's the fun in that? Serena rolled her eyes but smiled. Let's head back. The village head's gonna want proof that this thing won't be bothering them anymore. Asher wiped the remaining blood off his arm and stretched. Okay, but first, let's see what it ate that made it turn into this. Serena raised an eyebrow before nodding. Good idea. Something definitely wasn't right about that thing. They approached the serpent's corpse, its dark scales now dulled after death. Asher crouched beside its stomach, pressing a hand against the bloated section. He channeled a small amount of blood ruler energy, forcing the stomach to rupture slightly without causing too much of a mess. A sickening squelch followed, and out spilled the half-digested remains of various creatures. Livestock, a few wolves, and something that immediately caught Asher's eye. A dark, pulsating mass, roughly the size of a human head, lay within the pile. Serena stepped closer, her expression darkening. That's a corrupt core, isn't it? Asher nodded, his gaze narrowing. Yeah. That explains it. Corrupted beings were a natural occurrence in the world. Unlike regular monsters, corrupted creatures had the ability to drain the life force of others, growing stronger with each victim. The more they consumed, the more twisted and powerful they became. Becoming corrupted wasn't difficult either. There were two main ways it could happen. Being cursed by a dark mage. Those skilled in dark arts could infect a creature with corruption, forcing them to mutate into monstrous forms. Consuming corrupt fruits. Certain cursed fruits, such as the wither fruit and ashen bloom, contained dark energy. Eating one would either corrupt a creature or kill them outright. Serena frowned. But this serpent didn't eat a corrupt fruit. It swallowed a corrupt core whole. Asher stood, his eyes locked on the pulsating mass. Which means someone planted it. He nudged the core with the tip of his boot. This wasn't natural corruption. This was intentional. Serena's grip tightened around her daggers. That's bad. Really bad. If someone is deliberately corrupting creatures, it means they're either experimenting. She hesitated, the implications settling in. Or building an army. Asher exhaled through his nose, his expression unreadable. Either way, we need to find out who. And why. A sudden rustling in the bushes made them both snap to attention. Asher's eyes glowed faintly red again as he extended his senses outward. Something's watching us, he murmured. Serena took a slow step back, her body tensed. One of the villagers? No. Asher's voice was firm. Not human. A low growl echoed from the treeline. Serena didn't hesitate. She flicked a dagger forward, sending it whistling through the air toward the sound. The weapon embedded into the trunk of a tree, just as a shadow darted away. Asher caught a glimpse of glowing yellow eyes before the figure disappeared into the darkness.
Serena cursed. Damn it.
It was spying on us. Asher stared after the retreating figure.
Yeah.
And now it knows we're onto them. A heavy silence fell between them. Finally, Serena sheathed her daggers. We need to tell the village head. If more creatures are being corrupted, they need to be ready. Or rather, let's just go after it, Asher said. Serena rolled her eyes. Are you mad or what? What if he has a whole army? She said, but Asher had already started walking ahead. I have options, he said simply. There were 3 Reapers he had acquired from the Infinity Tower, using his Soul Reaper Monarch ability, as well as the Blood Golems. Around Asher, 10 orbs of crimson energy formed in the air and then morphed into Blood Knight-looking powerful figures. You have them, so why haven't you used them against the Blood Cross? She asked. Asher exhaled. They're watching our every move. If I had shown my full power, they would have sent more powerful forces. Then we might not have been able to get away from them, he explained. So you can use them now?
Serena asked. Asher pointed upward.
I've covered this whole place in a blood veil. No one can watch us without my approval now, he said. Serena stared at him. Why are you so guarded? She asked. Asher left her question hanging for a moment before finally replying, I don't know. I just like to have myself ready for anything. With that, he started walking toward the forest, heading in the direction where the figure had been watching them. Serena shook her head but followed after him, silently preparing herself in case this so-called army was already waiting for them. The forest loomed ahead, shrouded in darkness. The thick canopy blocked most of the moonlight, leaving only slivers of silver to guide their path. The air was damp, carrying the scent of earth and rotting leaves. Serena moved soundlessly beside Asher, her daggers drawn but kept low. Do you even have a plan, or are we just walking into an ambush? She whispered. Asher didn't break stride. If they wanted to ambush us, they would have done it already. No, they're testing us, seeing how far we'll go.
Serena frowned.
That means they think they can handle us.
Asher nodded.
It's a common tactic to overwhelm your opponent. I am strong and you are weak kind mentality.
A twig snapped in the distance.
Serena's grip tightened on her weapons, but Asher simply stopped walking, his eyes glowing faintly red as he activated blood sense.
There, he muttered.
A shadow darted between the trees, moving fast, but not fast enough. With a flick of his wrist, Asher sent one of his crimson orbs flying. It shot forward like a bullet, slamming into a nearby tree just inches from the figure's head.
The figure froze.
Come out, Asher ordered, his voice calm but firm. Or I'll drag you out.
For a moment, nothing happened.
Then slowly, the figure stepped into the dim moonlight. A young man with ragged clothes and glowing yellow eyes. His skin was unnaturally pale, his veins pulsing with the same eerie blue light that had run through the corrupted serpent's body. Serena inhaled sharply. He's corrupted. The man smirked, his lips curling unnaturally.
Not quite, he rasped.
I'm something more. Asher narrowed his eyes. Who did this to you? The corrupted man chuckled, tilting his head. Wouldn't you like to know? Before either of them could react, he lunged. Serena moved first, her daggers flashing in the dark as she struck at his throat. But the moment her blade touched his flesh, a pulse of dark energy erupted outward, just like with the serpent. Serena was thrown back, skidding across the dirt. Explore more stories at my virtual library empire.
TCH.
Asher caught her before she could crash into a tree, then turned his gaze back to the man. You have the same defensive reaction as the serpent. The corrupted man grinned.
Of course.
We serve the same master. Asher's eyes darkened. Then I'll make you talk.
He raised his hand. Bloodbind.
The air thickened as crimson tendrils shot forward, wrapping around the man's limbs like chains. The corrupted figure struggled, his veins pulsating violently as he tried to resist. You can't hold me, he snarled. You sure about that? Asher tightened his grip, his blood ruler abilities sinking deeper into the man's body. Because I think I can do a lot more than just hold you. The corrupted man gasped as his body convulsed, his corruption reacting violently to Asher's power. Serena pushed herself up, wiping blood from her lip. Ask him who his master is before he melts into a pile of sludge.
Asher's grip tightened.
Who gave you this power? The man coughed, a twisted smile still on his face.
You'll find out soon enough. His body jerked, and then, before Asher could stop it, a dark energy exploded from his chest. Serena shielded her eyes as the man's body disintegrated into black mist, vanishing into the air. Asher clicked his tongue in frustration. Damn it. Serena exhaled. Self-destruction? That's a new one. He said, Master. That means someone is making them while at the same time forcing his or her will onto them, Asher said, staring at the remains of the man. So, what now? Serena asked. Asher stood up. I guess we return to the village and evacuate the people for now, he said as he turned. They both started moving, but as they did, they saw the same thick black smoke rising into the sky. Fuck. It's from the village, Asher said, his expression darkening. Without hesitation, he grabbed Serena's wrist, and then in a blur of movement, black wings of blood unfolded behind him. Hold on, he said before they both darted toward the village at full speed. The wind roared in Serena's ears as Asher propelled them forward with his blood wings, slicing through the night like a crimson shadow. The sight of the village growing closer sent a sinking feeling into her gut. Thick, black smoke billowed into the sky, and the faint glow of fire flickered in the darkness. Asher narrowed his eyes. We're too late. Serena gritted her teeth. We don't know that yet. The moment they reached the outskirts, Asher released his grip on Serena, and they both landed on the ground, skidding to a stop. The once peaceful village was in chaos. Houses burned, villagers screamed, and monstrous figures, warped and corrupted, moved through the streets, attacking anything in sight. Corrupted beasts. Wolves with twisted limbs, boars with glowing blue veins, and even former villagers. Now nothing more than puppets under the corruption's control. Serena's heart clenched. Damn it. These were people. A corrupted villager turned toward them, his once human face now stretched into something inhuman, his eyes glowing yellow. With an unnatural shriek, he lunged. Serena reacted instantly. Surge step. In a blur, she sidestepped the attack, her daggers flashing as she sliced clean through his neck. The corrupted body crumpled to the ground, black mist leaking from the wound. Asher raised his hand. Blood domain, release. A wave of crimson energy pulsed outward, engulfing the village in an unseen force. The corrupted creatures shuddered as Asher's power seeped into the air, weighing down on them like a crushing tide. One of the shadowy figures turned toward them, stepping forward. Unlike the mindless corrupted, this one had intelligence in its eyes. A tall man, draped in tattered black robes, with a twisted grin. You must be Asher, the figure spoke, his voice eerily calm. We've been watching you. Asher's expression darkened. And you are? The man tilted his head. Call me Malachi. I serve the one who will remake this world. Serena scoffed. Let me guess, by turning people into monsters? Malachi chuckled. Monsters? No. We are simply evolving. Asher's patience snapped. Enough. He flicked his wrist, and crimson spears materialized in the air, aimed directly at Malachi. I don't care who you serve. You're going to die here. Malachi's grin widened. I was hoping you'd say that. The air trembled as Malachi's dark energy clashed against Asher's blood domain, the ground beneath them cracking under the sheer force. The corrupted creatures shrieked, their forms twisting unnaturally as Malachi's presence strengthened them. Serena tightened her grip on her daggers, eyes locked onto Malachi. This guy feels different from the others. Stronger. Asher's eyes glowed a deeper red. Doesn't matter. He dies here. With a flick of his fingers, the blood spears shot forward, aiming for Malachi's chest and head. Malachi simply raised his hand. A pulse of dark energy expanded outward, and in an instant, the spears shattered into crimson mist. Serena's eyes widened. TCH. He negated them. Malachi laughed, stepping forward. Your power is interesting, Asher. But it's nothing compared to true corruption. He thrust his hand toward the ground, and black veins spread like wildfire, corrupting everything they touched. The soil turned into a sickly pulsating sludge, and from it, twisted figures began to rise, grotesque humanoid abominations with elongated limbs and glowing yellow eyes. Serena grimaced. Great. More of these things. Before Asher could respond, the creatures lunged at them with inhuman speed. Serena vanished in a blur. Surge step. She reappeared mid-air, flipping over the first creature and bringing her daggers down in a precise strike. Twin Fong execution. Her blade sliced through its neck and chest in one swift motion, severing it completely. Asher didn't bother dodging. He extended his hand, and the blood in the air condensed violently. Blood ruler, Crimson chains.
Thick chains of blood erupted from the ground, wrapping around the creatures and crushing them in an instant. Their corrupted bodies convulsed before dissolving into black mist. Malachi watched with amusement.
Not bad.
But let's see how you handle this. He raised both hands, and the black veins spread even faster. The ground trembled, then, something massive began to rise from the corrupted soil. A towering, multi-limbed abomination with a grotesque, skull-like face and glowing blue veins.
Serena cursed.
What the hell is that?
Asher's jaw tightened.
Something that needs to die. The abomination let out a piercing shriek before slamming one of its enormous arms toward them. Serena dashed to the side, barely avoiding the impact as the ground exploded beneath her.
Asher, unfazed, stood his ground. Blood Ruler, execution mode.
The air grew thick as his power spiked. His aura deepened into a dark crimson, and the blood around him began to boil. Malachi's grin faltered for the first time.
Oh.
Asher smirked, his voice laced with power. Let's see if you can corrupt something that doesn't fear you. Discover hidden content at my virtual library empire. In an instant, he vanished, reappearing right in front of Malachi. His fist, coated in pure, condensed blood energy, struck Malachi square in the chest. The impact sent shockwaves through the battlefield. Malachi's body shot backward like a cannonball, crashing through a burning house and leaving a trail of corrupted mist in his wake. The sheer force of Asher's punch cracked the ground beneath them, sending a wave of dust and debris into the air. Serena landed beside Asher, panting slightly.
Damn.
You really sent him flying. Asher's glowing red eyes stayed locked on the rubble. He's not dead. Serena landed beside Asher, panting slightly.
Damn.
You really sent him flying. Asher's glowing red eyes stayed locked on the rubble. He's not dead. Before Serena could respond, the ruined house exploded outward, and Malachi emerged, his robes in tatters and his body pulsing with dark energy. He staggered for a moment, then wiped the blood from his lips, inky black blood that sizzled as it hit the ground. Malachi's grin widened, though his eyes held a newfound wariness.
I see. So that's your true power.
Asher cracked his knuckles, unfazed. That was just a warm-up. Malachi exhaled, and the corrupted mist around him thickened. The massive abomination behind him let out a guttural roar, its blue veins pulsing violently. Then, with terrifying speed, it lunged. Serena barely had time to react before the creature's massive arm came crashing down toward them.
Surge step.
She vanished, reappearing behind the beast, her daggers flashing as she struck its exposed back. But the moment her blades made contact, a pulse of corruption exploded outward, sending her flying back. Serena tumbled across the ground, coughing as she pushed herself up. Okay, not my best idea. Asher, she shouted, that thing rejects normal attacks. Asher's gaze remained cold. Then we stop holding back. He raised both hands, and the blood in the air condensed violently. Blood Ruler, absolute dominion. A wave of crimson energy spread out, and the battlefield shifted. The burning surroundings around them became engulfed in a red mist. Asher's domain was now absolute. Malachi's eyes narrowed.
What? Before he could finish, Asher vanished.
In the next instant, he reappeared behind the abomination, his hand pressed against its massive skull.
Blood corrosion.
The creature let out a deafening, ear-splitting shriek as its body convulsed violently. Its once glowing blue veins darkened, turning a deep crimson as Asher's power invaded its system. Malachi's eyes widened in shock.
Impossible.
You're overriding my corruption. Asher didn't answer. His power surged, and with a final pulse, the abomination burst into a spray of dark mist, leaving behind nothing but scattered, lifeless remains. Serena whistled, wiping sweat from her brow. That was badass. Malachi staggered back, disbelief written across his face. You dare to corrupt my creations. Asher turned to face him, his expression unreadable. You act like you own corruption. It belongs to no one. His eyes darkened. And now, neither do you. Before Malachi could react, Asher extended his hand.
Blood chains, condemnation.
Crimson chains erupted from the ground, wrapping around Malachi's limbs, tightening with crushing force. Malachi struggled, his dark energy flaring. You think you can restrain me? Asher's voice was cold.
No. I know I can.
The chains pulsed, sapping Malachi's strength. His body convulsed as the corruption within him was slowly overridden. Serena walked up beside Asher, spinning a dagger in her hand. So, do we kill him or make him talk first? Malachi glared at them, but the first flicker of fear crept into his expression.
Asher smirked.
Oh, he's going to talk. He crouched down slightly, his glowing red eyes locking onto Malachi's. Now tell me, who's really pulling the strings? Malachi was just about to scoff when his body stiffened. Against his will, his mouth began to move, his voice flat and mechanical. I am from the Red Fate organization. We are meant to create our own god. These so-called gods are nothing but arrogant beings, waging wars among themselves and bringing misery to all. The leader has the ability of Red Fate. He can see things that are yet to be. In one of his many prophecies, he foresaw that a god of corruption will emerge in the future. Hence, the low-rank members are obsessed with finding ways to bring that future into reality, or claiming that power for themselves. Asher listened carefully, memorizing every detail.
Serena frowned.
So, do you all think that makes you some kind of righteous warriors? Malachi's lips curled slightly, but his body remained rigid under Asher's control. A bunch of delusional lunatics, Asher muttered. Sounds like the Red Fate guy wants to ascend to godhood himself. The rest of you are just stepping stones for him.
Serena sighed. Great. Another cult.
Asher cracked his neck.
We should go.
The village has already suffered enough because of this guy. Malachi's body twitched, but he was still unable to move. Serena glanced at Asher. Back there when he started talking, what the hell did you do? You just stared into his eyes, and suddenly he was spilling everything like a broken puppet. Asher smirked slightly. A trick I've perfected over time. A mix of blood ruler and blood memory manipulation. By inserting a tiny amount of my blood into his bloodstream, I can influence the flow of his memories and force his brain to recall information against his will. Serena's eyes widened slightly. You can control someone's memories? Not exactly, Asher corrected. I can't rewrite them. But I can force someone to say what they don't want to, like I did just now. Serena shook her head in disbelief. That's terrifying. Asher gave a small shrug. Took me over 3 years to perfect it. It's not easy. Blood memory flows fast, and if I'm not careful, I can accidentally erase the target's mind completely.
Serena scoffed.
Yeah, that makes it so much better. Asher ignored her sarcasm and looked down at Malachi.
Enough talk.
He's useless now. With a flick of his wrist, the blood chains around Malachi tightened. His body convulsed violently, then in an instant, his form collapsed into a lifeless husk. Serena frowned but didn't say anything. The peaceful village girl was long past her stage of immaturity, especially after spending countless days fighting for her life. She knew that if they let Malachi live, he would have only returned stronger to finish what he started. Asher looked at the corrupted beasts that had fled when Malachi was defeated. He couldn't leave them behind. If any of them survived, they would only bring more destruction. Without saying anything, he released his reapers and then they hunted them corrupted beasts down one by one, ensuring no trace of corruption remained. When he returned to the village, the once thriving settlement was nothing more than ruins. The air was thick with the stench of death, and the streets were littered with bodies. What was once a village of over 100 people had been reduced to a mere handful of survivors. The village head, an old man who had welcomed them warmly when they first arrived, stood trembling, his face soaked with tears. I'm sorry, Asher said quietly. We came too late. The old village head shook his head, his voice breaking. It's not your fault. Asher remained silent, while Serena moved to help the injured. Her hands glowed faintly as she activated her healing abilities, tending to the wounds of those who had barely managed to survive. Out of over 100 villagers, only 9 remained. The rest had been slaughtered, men, women, and even children. The corrupted monsters showed no mercy. 3 children had survived by hiding in the village well, while a few elders had managed to escape to the outskirts. But the rest, they had been slaughtered mercilessly. Serena clenched her fists as she healed a wounded woman. The weight of the tragedy hung heavy over her. They remained for a day there, helping the survivors to bury the dead, and then Asher and Serena escorted them to Guildbacken City. The guild receptionist listened to the report from Asher and Serena. As she led them inside, she then turned to the surviving villagers, asking them a few questions. The villagers nodded weakly, confirming everything. With a heavy sigh, the receptionist nodded and signaled for guild escorts to take the survivors to a shelter meant for those whose homes had been destroyed by monster hordes. Continue your journey on my virtual library empire. Ha, at least you two arrived in time, the receptionist said tiredly. Most of the time, we only find such villages days later, when no more survivors remain to send requests.
Serena frowned.
What will happen to them now? she asked, watching as the villagers were led away. They will live here from now on, the receptionist explained. We have a designated shelter building exclusively for displaced people.
Asher gave a small nod. Does this happen often?
Not often, the receptionist replied, shaking her head. But it's not exactly rare either.
Asher sighed.
He understood exactly what she meant. This world was brutal. And not every village was lucky enough to have someone arrive in time. Why can't the guild station some patrols to monitor forest activity? Serena asked, frustration evident in her voice. The receptionist sighed. We do have patrols, she replied, but we can't ensure a response in time for every village. Travel distances, unpredictable monster movements. There are too many variables. She paused for a moment before adding, it's better if you two forget about it. This won't be the first time you witness something like this, and it won't be the last. She paused for a moment before adding, it's better if you two forget about it. This won't be the first time you witness something like this, and it won't be the last. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Asher and Serena standing in silence. Serena clenched her fists.
Forget about it?
How are we supposed to forget? Asher didn't respond immediately. He simply stared at the distant villagers being led to their new shelter, their faces hollow with grief.
She's right, he said finally.
This is just how the world works. Serena turned to him, eyes filled with anger. That's a terrible excuse. Asher gave a small, humorless chuckle. It's not an excuse. It's reality. Serena bit her lip but said nothing. They returned to the inn and began having lunch. Asher ate in silence, while Serena barely touched her food, lost in thought. How can you eat so soon after everything that happened? She asked, staring at him. Without looking up, Asher replied, we need to survive, Serena. They were weak, it wasn't their fault. And we were late to help them. That was our fault. He sighed, pushing his plate aside. But we can't just sit here and sulk because of this. If we stop now, who will save the next village? Serena clenched her fists but didn't argue.
He was right.
They couldn't change the past. But they could make sure this didn't happen again. Serena let out a deep breath, forcing herself to take a bite of her food, though it tasted like nothing. The weight of the villagers' suffering still pressed heavily on her. Asher, noticing her silence, leaned back in his chair. Sulking won't change anything, Serena.
She shot him a glare. I know that.
Then act like it, he said, his tone calm but firm. We have work to do. Serena scowled but didn't respond. She knew Asher wasn't being heartless, this was just his way of coping. Still, the way he spoke about it so rationally irritated her. After finishing their meal, Asher stood up. Let's go. We need to report what we found about the Red Fate organization.
Serena frowned.
Do you think the guild will actually do anything about it?
They have to, Asher said.
A group that's creating corrupted creatures and trying to make their own god isn't something they can ignore. Serena exhaled sharply.
Fine.
Let's get this over with. The two of them left the inn, heading straight for the guild. But as they walked through the city streets, Asher suddenly stopped. His sharp gaze locked onto a hooded figure standing in the alley ahead, barely visible in the shadows. Serena followed his gaze. What is it? Asher narrowed his eyes. We're being watched. Serena's body tensed as she followed Asher's gaze toward the hooded figure in the alley. The moment they locked eyes, the figure turned and disappeared into the shadows.
Should we follow?
Serena whispered, already gripping the hilt of her daggers. Asher exhaled, his eyes glowing faintly red as he activated his blood sense, tracing the lingering presence of the person's blood.
No need.
If they wanted to attack, they would have done it by now.
Serena frowned.
Then what do they want? Asher started walking again, motioning for her to follow. They're either scouting us or trying to intimidate us. Either way, it means we're on the right track.
Serena sighed. Great.
Just what we need, more enemies. As they approached the guild hall, the heavy doors creaked open, revealing a bustling interior filled with adventurers, merchants, and guild officials. The air was thick with the scent of parchment, metal, and roasted meat from the small tavern section inside. They made their way to the receptionist's desk, where the same woman from earlier glanced up at them. You're back fast, she noted, raising an eyebrow. Asher placed a small, sealed memory crystal on the counter. We have more information, urgent information, about the group responsible for the corruption. The receptionist's casual demeanor vanished instantly. She picked up the crystal and gestured for them to follow. Come with me, she said in a low voice, leading them toward a private meeting room in the back of the guild. As the door closed behind them, Asher leaned against the wall while Serena crossed her arms. All right, the receptionist said, placing the crystal on the table. Tell me everything. Asher's gazed at her. It's called the Red Fate Organization, and they're trying to create their own god. The room fell into a tense silence as the words settled. The receptionist's expression remained unreadable, but her fingers tapped subtly against the table, a small, nervous gesture. Creating their own god, she repeated, her voice even.
Asher nodded.
That's what Malachi, one of their members, claimed before we killed him. The Red Fate Organization isn't just corrupting creatures at random. They're systematically manipulating the future, trying to shape fate itself to create something powerful. The receptionist exhaled sharply. That's a bold claim. Serena crossed her arms. We wouldn't be here if it weren't true. The receptionist glanced down at the memory crystal Asher had placed on the table. This has proof.
Yes, Asher confirmed.
It contains Malachi's final words, as well as evidence of the corrupt core we found inside the twin-headed serpent. Whatever they're planning, it's big. She hesitated for only a moment before picking up the crystal and pressing her fingers against it. A faint blue glow pulsed from within as she absorbed the stored memories. Her brows furrowed as the recorded voices played in her mind. A few minutes later, she placed the crystal down and let out a deep sigh. This complicates things. Serena narrowed her eyes. How much do you already know about them? The receptionist hesitated, then looked between the two of them.
Officially, nothing. Unofficially. She leaned forward, lowering her voice.
The Red Fate Organization has been on the guild's radar for years, but we've never been able to pin them down. Every lead either disappears or turns up dead before we get close.
Asher's gaze sharpened.
So you do know something?
She nodded.
Not much, but enough to know they aren't just some cult-worshipping corruption. They have powerful backers, people with influence in places they shouldn't.
Serena scowled.
And you're telling us the guild hasn't done anything about it? We've tried, the receptionist shot back, frustration slipping into her tone. But every time we get close, they cover their tracks. Even high-ranking adventurers who go after them tend to disappear. Asher crossed his arms, considering her words. Then that means we're already on their list. The receptionist met his gaze. If you weren't before, you are now. A heavy silence settled over the room. Serena exhaled, shaking her head. Great. More people trying to kill us. The receptionist gave a small, grim smile. Welcome to the real battlefield. She leaned back, thinking for a moment before speaking again. I'll have this information forwarded to the higher-ups, but I don't know if they'll act on it immediately. The guild has its hands full with the ongoing monster outbreaks. If you two want to do something about this, you'll likely be on your own for now.
Asher smirked slightly. That's fine.
We work better without restrictions. The receptionist gave him a knowing look. Then let me offer you a piece of advice: stay alive. If the Red Fate Organization is trying to shape the future, then anyone who opposes them won't be safe. Asher and Serena exchanged glances before nodding. We never expected to be safe, Serena muttered. The receptionist sighed, then stood up. I'll get this processed. In the meantime, watch your backs. You're already being watched, and if they see you as a threat. Discover hidden stories at my virtual library empire.
They'll come after us, Asher finished. The receptionist nodded.
And when they do, I hope you're ready. Believe me, this is not the first time we've had an organization come after us, Asher said. The receptionist looked at him and sighed. So, either you're incredibly unlucky, or you're a magnet for trouble.
Asher shrugged. Probably both.
The receptionist shook her head, muttering something under her breath before leaning forward. Look, if you two really plan to go after them, be careful. The Red Fate Organization isn't just another group of lunatics. They're methodical, calculated. If they've taken an interest in you, it's not just because you killed one of their men, it's because you've disrupted their plans. Serena crossed her arms.
Good.
That means we're doing something right. The receptionist sighed. That attitude will get you killed.
Asher shrugged.
Only if we're careless. The receptionist gave him a long look before nodding.
Fine. Do what you want.
But if you get into trouble, don't expect the guild to pull you out of it. As far as we're concerned, this is still unofficial business. Noted, Asher said, turning toward the door. Serena followed, but before they could leave, The receptionist called out one last time. One more thing, if they are shaping the future, that means they already have a plan for you. Don't play into their hands. Asher paused at the doorway, glancing back over his shoulder. His expression was unreadable. We'll see who's really in control of the future. With that, they stepped out into the night. As Asher and Serena stepped out into the cool night air, the weight of their conversation with the receptionist lingered between them. The city streets were quieter now, with only a few distant figures moving through the alleys, their footsteps echoing against the cobblestones. Serena pulled her cloak tighter around her shoulders. So, what now? Asher glanced up at the sky, his crimson eyes reflecting the moonlight. We wait and watch. If the Red Fate organization is aware of us, they'll make a move soon. Serena scowled. Waiting around for them to come after us doesn't sound like a great plan. Asher smirked. It's not about waiting, it's about setting the board. If they think we're vulnerable, they'll show themselves. And when they do, we strike first. Serena let out a slow breath. Fine. But if this goes south, I'm blaming you. Asher chuckled. Wouldn't have it any other way. They continued walking through the dimly lit streets, their senses alert. The memory of the hooded figure from earlier still lingered in Asher's mind. If the Red Fate organization was watching them, they wouldn't remain in the shadows for long. As they turned a corner, a flicker of movement caught Asher's eye. A lone figure stood at the end of the street, partially hidden by the shadows. Unlike before, this one didn't disappear immediately. Instead, they raised a hand, beckoning. Serena tensed. That's definitely a trap. Asher's lips curled into a faint smile. Good. Let's walk into it. Without hesitation, he started forward, his posture relaxed but his blood control at the ready. Serena sighed but followed, her hands resting on the hilts of her daggers. As they closed the distance, the figure finally stepped into the light. A young woman with silver hair and piercing violet eyes met their gaze, her expression unreadable. She was clad in dark, form-fitting armor, and at her side rested a curved dagger glowing faintly with an eerie purple hue. I was wondering when you'd notice me, she said, her voice smooth yet laced with amusement. Serena's grip tightened on her daggers. Who are you? The woman tilted her head. That depends. Do you want the truth, or a lie that will help you sleep better at night? Asher studied her, his eyes glowing slightly as he extended his blood sense toward her. Her presence was strange, controlled, precise, as if every drop of blood in her body moved with intention. She wasn't just some scout. She was dangerous. The truth, Asher said simply. The woman smiled. Then let's talk. But not here. She turned and started walking down a narrow alley. Serena shot Asher a look. We're really following her? Asher nodded. Yes. But be ready for anything. Serena sighed. I always am. With that, they followed the mysterious woman into the darkness, unaware that the next steps they took would change everything. Asher and Serena followed the woman through the winding alleys, their footsteps barely making a sound against the cobblestones. Despite her seemingly casual pace, Asher could tell she was leading them somewhere specific, somewhere carefully chosen. Eventually, she stopped in front of an abandoned building, its wooden doors slightly ajar. She glanced back at them with a knowing smile. Inside. It's safer to talk there. Serena hesitated. If this is a trap. The woman chuckled. Then you'll just have to kill me before I kill you, won't you? Asher stepped forward without hesitation. Let's get this over with. Inside, the building was dimly lit by a few flickering lanterns. A single wooden table stood in the center, with chairs placed around it, as if it had been prepared for this meeting in advance. The woman took a seat, resting her hands on the table. First, introductions. My name is Evelyn Vares. I'm one of the guild's elite adventurers. Serena narrowed her eyes. A guild elite? Then why are you sneaking around like some spy? Evelyn smirked. Because my mission isn't exactly official. Asher crossed his arms. You're working on the Red Fate organization, aren't you? Evelyn's smile didn't waver. Smart. Yes, I've been investigating them for a long time. The guild doesn't like to admit it, but they have spies everywhere, including within our ranks. That's why official investigations never go anywhere. Serena scoffed. So what? You work in the shadows and hope no one notices. Evelyn leaned forward, her violet eyes gleaming. I do what's necessary. Asher met her gaze evenly. Then why approach us? Evelyn studied them for a moment before speaking. Because I need to know if you're potential allies, or potential recruits? Serena's expression darkened.
Recruits. Evelyn nodded.
The Red Fate organization doesn't just destroy and corrupt for the sake of chaos.
They have a plan, a vision.
And they don't waste potential.
She rested her chin on her hand.
Right now, they're watching you. Your actions have caught their attention. And if I'm here, that means they think you might be worth bringing into the fold. Enjoy new stories from my virtual library empire. Silence filled the room. Asher's expression remained unreadable. And what do you think?
Evelyn tilted her head.
I think you're dangerous. And I think that danger can be put to good use.
Serena scoffed.
So, what, you're offering us a place among them?
Evelyn's smile didn't fade.
I'm offering you a choice. You can keep fighting them, stumbling through the dark, constantly outmaneuvered.
She leaned forward.
Or you can see the world from their perspective.
Learn what they know.
Understand why they do what they do. Asher considered her words carefully. And if we refuse? Evelyn's expression didn't change, but there was a subtle shift in her eyes, a quiet warning. Then they'll see you as a threat. And threats don't last long. Serena clenched her fists. So it's join or die, is that it?
Evelyn shook her head. Not quite.
It's more like, adapt or be erased. She leaned back in her chair, watching them closely. I don't need an answer now. But think carefully, because the Red Fate organization doesn't make the offer twice. Asher exchanged a glance with Serena before looking back at Evelyn. Then you'd better hope you like our answer when we give it.
Evelyn smirked.
I always enjoy a gamble. The room fell into silence, the weight of her offer settling over them like a storm cloud. Serena's fingers twitched over the hilt of her dagger. She didn't trust Evelyn, not one bit. But Asher remained calm, his expression unreadable as always. Evelyn observed them with quiet amusement before standing up. I'll give you some time to think it over. But don't take too long. The Red Fate organization doesn't wait forever. Asher leaned against the table, his gaze sharp. And what if we decide we're better off killing every last one of them instead? Evelyn chuckled, unfazed. Then I'll be very disappointed, and you'll find out just how deep their influence runs. She stepped toward the door but paused. For what it's worth, I think you'd fit in well. The way you think, the way you move, you already understand how this world works. Why waste your time fighting for a side that will never truly win?
Serena scowled.
You sure like to talk. Evelyn flashed her a grin. And you sure like to ignore reality. But I'll leave you with one last piece of advice. If you keep resisting them, be prepared to lose something valuable. Her words carried a chilling certainty, and with that, she turned and left, disappearing into the night like a ghost. The moment she was gone, Serena turned to Asher. Tell me you're not actually considering this. Asher exhaled slowly.
Of course not.
Serena relaxed slightly.
Good.
Because if you did, I'd have to knock some sense into you. A faint smirk crossed Asher's lips. I'd like to see you try. Serena rolled her eyes.
Not the point.
What do we do now? Asher's gaze lingered on the door where Evelyn had exited. We need to find out just how much of what she said was true. If the guild is compromised, we can't rely on them. And if the Red Fate organization is watching us, we need to start moving carefully. Serena sighed, rubbing her temples. Great. So we're on our own again.
Asher shook his head.
Not entirely. We still have allies, ones we can trust. Serena crossed her arms. Then I hope we find them before the Red Fate organization decides we're better off dead. Asher's crimson eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Let them try. Asher and Serena moved through the quiet streets, their senses heightened. The weight of Evelyn's words lingered between them, but neither spoke until they were safely back near the guild district. Serena finally broke the silence.
So, what's the plan?
We can't just sit around and wait for them to make the next move. Asher glanced up at the darkened windows of the surrounding buildings, his mind already calculating their next steps. We need information. If the guild is compromised, we can't trust them blindly. And if the Red Fate organization thinks we're worth recruiting, that means they see us as valuable assets. We need to figure out why.
Serena frowned.
You think they know something about us that we don't? Asher didn't answer immediately.
Possibly.
Or they just see us as tools to be used. Either way, I intend to find out.
Serena frowned.
You think they know something about us that we don't? Asher didn't answer immediately.
Possibly.
Or they just see us as tools to be used. Either way, I intend to find out. They reached the inn and slipped inside quietly. The main hall was nearly empty, save for a few drunk adventurers slumped over their drinks. The innkeeper gave them a glance but said nothing as they made their way upstairs to their rented room. Once inside, Serena locked the door and leaned against it.
All right.
What's the first step? Asher sat on the edge of the bed, his fingers tapping against his knee.
We start with Evelyn.
She's working for the guild, but she's also clearly in contact with the Red Fate organization. If she's testing us, that means she has direct connections to them. He met Serena's gaze. We need to find out how deep those connections go. Serena exhaled sharply.
You want to follow her? Asher nodded.
She won't reveal anything to us directly. But if we track her movements, we might uncover where she's reporting to, or who else she's working with.
Serena smirked.
Finally, something I'm good at. Despite everything, Asher felt the corner of his lips twitch in amusement. I'll handle anything that requires force. You handle the stealth.
Serena stretched her arms. Fine by me.
But if we get caught, I'm blaming you.
Asher rolled his eyes. Noted. The next night.
Evelyn didn't make it easy. She moved through the city like a shadow, taking indirect routes, pausing to check for tails, and occasionally doubling back. She was no amateur, but neither were they. Serena led the way, keeping them hidden as they followed Evelyn through the lower districts. Eventually, she arrived at a seemingly ordinary building, a small shop with a faded sign. Evelyn slipped inside without hesitation. Serena crouched beside Asher on a nearby rooftop.
A shop? Doesn't look like much.
Asher narrowed his eyes. That's what makes it a perfect meeting spot.
Serena huffed. So, what now? We wait. Asher shook his head.
We find a way inside.
Serena grinned.
Now you're speaking my language. Serena and Asher moved swiftly and silently, navigating across the rooftops to find a vantage point. The shop had no visible guards, but they both knew better than to assume it was unprotected. Serena peered over the edge, studying the building's structure. Windows are sealed. No easy way in from the top.
What's the plan?
Asher's crimson eyes flickered as he activated his blood sense. He could detect several life signatures inside. Evelyn's was unmistakable, but there were at least 3 others. None of them seemed on high alert, which meant they weren't expecting an intrusion. We go in through the side, he murmured. There's an alley entrance. I don't sense any guards posted there.
Serena grinned.
Then let's not waste time. Moving like shadows, they descended from the rooftop, slipping into the narrow alley beside the shop. Asher tested the door. It was locked, but a simple matter for Serena, who pulled out a set of tools and got to work. Within seconds, there was a soft click.
She smirked. Too easy.
Asher pushed the door open, and they stepped inside.
Inside the shop.
The interior was dimly lit, shelves lined with trinkets and scrolls that made the place seem like an ordinary antique shop. But Asher's senses told him otherwise. There was something beneath them. Serena nudged him. They're below us.
He nodded.
There must be a hidden entrance. They moved cautiously, searching for any hidden mechanisms. It didn't take long. Behind the counter, Serena found a small rune-etched tile that shifted slightly under her touch. A faint click echoed through the shop, and part of the floor behind the counter slid open, revealing a stone staircase leading downward. Serena arched a brow. Cliché but effective. Asher motioned for her to stay close, and together, they descended into the unknown. Read latest stories on my virtual library empire.
The hidden chamber.
The underground room was larger than expected, lined with stone walls covered in strange symbols. At the center stood a large wooden table where Evelyn sat, speaking with 3 hooded figures. Asher and Serena crouched behind a stack of crates, listening. Their potential is undeniable, Evelyn was saying. If they join us, it will be a great asset. One of the hooded figures scoffed. And if they refuse? Evelyn's eyes gleamed. Then we make sure they never interfere again. Serena tensed beside Asher, but he held up a hand, signaling her to stay put. The second hooded figure leaned forward. The higher-ups want an answer soon. They believe Asher, in particular, could be useful in reshaping fate. Serena shot Asher a glance, but he remained still, absorbing every word.
Evelyn smirked. Give me time.
I'll make them see reason. The first figure exhaled sharply. See that you do. Otherwise, we'll handle it our way. The conversation ended, and Asher knew they had heard enough. He grabbed Serena's wrist, and they silently retreated back up the stairs before they could be noticed. Once they were safely outside, Serena whispered, "They really think they can manipulate you." Asher's expression was unreadable. "Let them try." Serena crossed her arms. "So what now? We expose Evelyn." Asher shook his head. "No. We let her believe she still has a chance. If we play this right, she might just lead us straight to the Red Fate organization's higher-ups." Serena smirked. "You want to play the long game?" Asher's crimson eyes glowed faintly. "We'll make them think they're in control, until it's too late for them to stop us." Serena chuckled. "Now that sounds like a plan." The next day, the guild. Asher and Serena returned to the guild as if nothing had happened. They moved with practiced ease, their expressions unreadable. If Evelyn had any suspicion that they had been listening to her secret meeting, she didn't show it. She greeted them with her usual calm demeanor, her golden eyes studying them carefully. "I assume you've had time to think about our last conversation," Evelyn said, folding her hands on the counter. Asher nodded. "We have." Serena played along, her expression skeptical but open. "You made it sound like the guild wasn't doing enough. If that's the case, what are you offering?" Evelyn's lips curved into a faint smile. "Something better. The chance to be on the right side of history." Asher tilted his head slightly. "You're saying the guild is on the wrong side?" Evelyn's expression didn't waver. "I'm saying the guild is limited. It reacts to problems rather than preventing them. The Red Fate organization sees beyond that. We shape the future rather than chase after it." Serena crossed her arms, playing her role perfectly. "And you think we belong in this organization?" Evelyn leaned forward slightly. "I know you do. You've already proven yourselves. You're strong, resourceful, and capable of things most adventurers can't even comprehend." Her gaze flicked to Asher. "And you in particular are special. The higher-ups believe you could help achieve something greater than even the guild understands." Asher met her gaze, his expression giving nothing away. "And if we refuse?" Evelyn's smile didn't fade. "Then we'll part ways peacefully for now. But I don't think you'll refuse." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small black emblem with a crimson spiral etched into its surface. "This is an invitation. If you want to know more, come to the location inscribed on the back. You'll meet someone who can explain everything." Asher took the emblem, his fingers brushing over the intricate design. Serena glanced at him, feigning uncertainty. "And if we go, but decide we don't like what we see?" Evelyn chuckled softly. "Then you walk away. No strings attached." It was a lie. They all knew it. But Asher only nodded. "We'll consider it." Evelyn's eyes glimmered with satisfaction. "Good. I hope to see you both there." Later, back at the inn. Asher and Serena sat in their room, staring at the emblem Evelyn had given them. Serena scowled. "This is obviously a trap." Asher nodded. "Of course. But we need to spring it on our terms." Serena leaned forward. "So what's the play?" Asher turned the emblem over, reading the inscribed location. "We go. But not as recruits." His crimson eyes darkened. "We go as hunters." Serena smirked. "Now that sounds like fun." With their decision made, they prepared for their next move, stepping straight into the lion's den. The invitation, entering the lion's den. The meeting location was deep within the city, far from the bustling adventurer districts and well-lit streets. It was an abandoned estate, once a noble's manor, now reduced to crumbling stone walls and overgrown ivy. The perfect place for secret dealings. Asher and Serena approached cautiously, blending into the shadows. The two of them had already scouted the area earlier in the day, memorizing possible escape routes and noting hidden guards stationed at the perimeter. At the entrance, a hooded figure stood waiting. The moment they stepped forward, the figure held up a hand. "The emblem," he said, his voice gruff. Asher held up the black emblem Evelyn had given them. The figure examined it for a moment before stepping aside. "Go inside. Don't keep them waiting." Serena shot Asher a glance before the two of them entered. Inside the meeting hall. The interior of the estate was in far better condition than the outside suggested. The walls were reinforced, the furniture polished, and soft candlelight illuminated the room with an eerie glow. Several figures sat around a long table. Some were cloaked in dark robes, others in fine armor. But the one who stood out the most was the man at the head of the table, a silver-haired figure with piercing violet eyes. His presence alone commanded attention. Evelyn was already there, standing beside him. You came, she said, a small smile playing on her lips. I knew you would. Asher said nothing, his crimson gaze locking onto the silver-haired man. The man studied them for a long moment before finally speaking. You must be Asher and Serena. His voice was smooth, confident. Evelyn speaks highly of you. Asher remained silent, waiting. The man smirked. I am Lucian, one of the high-ranking leaders of the Red Fate organization. He gestured to the seats in front of him. Sit. Serena hesitated, but Asher sat down first, prompting her to follow. Lucian leaned forward, his sharp eyes studying them. Tell me, how much do you know about fate? Serena scoffed. If this is going to be some religious speech, you can save it. Experience exclusive tales on my virtual library empire. Lucian chuckled. Not religious, practical. He gestured around. The world operates on predictable patterns. Weak nations fall, strong rulers rise, and no matter how much people fight it, destiny is inevitable. Asher's expression remained unreadable. And you think you can control destiny? Lucian smirked. Not just control it, reshape it. He leaned back in his chair. We have uncovered ancient knowledge, forces beyond what the guild or the kingdoms understand. Power that can rewrite the future. But to use it, we need the right people. People like you. Serena crossed her arms. And what exactly do you want us to do? Evelyn spoke this time. Join us. Abandon the outdated ideals of the guild. Work with us to create a world where the strong don't have to waste their lives protecting the weak. Lucian nodded. We're not asking for blind loyalty. We're offering power, knowledge, and the freedom to shape the world as you see fit. His gaze flickered to Asher. And in return, all we ask is that you help us bring about a new era. A silence settled over the room. Serena shot Asher a subtle glance, waiting for his cue. Asher finally spoke. And if we say no? Lucian smiled, but there was a dangerous glint in his eyes. Then you leave here as guests, unharmed. But understand this, if you walk away now, we will consider you obstacles in the future. And obstacles, his smile widened, are meant to be removed. Serena's fingers twitched toward her daggers, but Asher placed a hand on her wrist under the table, signaling her to wait. He smirked slightly. That's quite the ultimatum. Lucian shrugged. The world is full of them. Asher leaned back in his chair, exuding an air of confidence. Then I guess we have a decision to make. Lucian's eyes gleamed. Indeed you do. A tense silence settled over the room. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows on the walls as Asher and Serena sat across from Lucian, weighing their options. Serena was tense, her fingers twitching near her daggers, but Asher remained composed. His crimson eyes flickered with unreadable intent as he met Lucian's piercing gaze. Evelyn, standing beside Lucian, spoke again. You don't have to answer now. Take your time to think about it. But understand, this opportunity doesn't come twice. Lucian nodded. Indeed. You've already disrupted our plans once, yet here you are, alive and given a chance to join us. That should tell you something. Serena scoffed. Yeah, that you're desperate. Lucian chuckled, unbothered. Hardly. We are simply efficient. Recruiting potential allies is far more practical than making unnecessary enemies. His gaze sharpened. And you too, you are far too valuable to waste. Asher smirked slightly. Flattery won't get you anywhere. Lucian leaned forward, resting his hands on the table. This isn't flattery. It's simple logic. You're talented, strong, and most importantly, you think ahead. That's rare. His eyes gleamed. The guild, for all its righteousness, will never see you as more than tools to maintain order. But with us, you would be architects of a new world. Serena clenched her fists. A world built on what? Corrupting creatures and manipulating people. Lucian sighed, shaking his head. You see corruption. We see evolution. The world is flawed, bound by outdated systems and weak rulers. We're simply accelerating its inevitable transformation. Evelyn stepped closer, her gaze settling on Asher. You understand, don't you? You've seen how the world works. The strong survive, the weak fall. We are simply ensuring that those who deserve power keep it. Asher didn't respond immediately. He simply tilted his head slightly, studying her. Tell me, he finally said, why are you really recruiting us? You have other elites, powerful backers. What makes us special? Lucian smirked. Perceptive. He drummed his fingers on the table before answering. You're right, we have many strong individuals in our ranks. But few possess the adaptability and foresight that you do. You don't blindly follow orders. You think for yourselves. That's exactly the kind of people we need. Evelyn added, and then there's you, Asher. Your ability is unique. And powerful. We both know that blood control is only the surface of what you can do. Her eyes gleamed knowingly. With the right guidance, you could reach heights no one else can. Serena stiffened. If Evelyn had even the slightest suspicion about Asher's true abilities, this meeting had just become even more dangerous. Asher, however, remained unfazed. He let out a quiet chuckle. And what if we agree? Lucian's smirk widened. Then you will be given access to knowledge and resources beyond your imagination. Missions that shape the course of history. Power that ensures no one stands above you. He spread his arms. Join us, and you won't just survive in this world, you'll rule it. The room fell silent once more. Serena's grip tightened on her armrests. Asher remained unreadable, but she knew he was calculating every possibility, considering every angle. Finally, Asher exhaled and leaned back. We'll think about it. Lucian grinned, pleased. Good. That's all we ask. He stood, gesturing toward the door. Evelyn will escort you back. When you're ready to give us your answer, you know where to find us. Evelyn nodded and motioned for them to follow. As they stood and turned toward the exit, Lucian's voice echoed behind them. Oh, and Asher? Asher stopped but didn't turn around. Lucian's voice was smooth, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. Don't take too long. The future waits for no one. Without a word, Asher and Serena walked out, their minds already racing with their next move. Asher and Serena stepped out of the guild's private meeting room, their footsteps echoing down the dimly lit hallway. Evelyn walked ahead of them, her posture relaxed yet alert, as if expecting an ambush at any moment. Neither Asher nor Serena spoke until they exited the guild hall entirely, stepping into the cold night air. The city streets had quieted, with only a few scattered lanterns flickering against the darkness. Evelyn finally turned to face them, her violet eyes scanning them carefully. You handled that well, she said, her voice unreadable. Lucian doesn't extend invitations lightly. Serena scoffed. Yeah? Well, he can take that invitation and shove it. Evelyn smirked slightly. Predictable. But it's not your answer we're waiting for. Her gaze shifted to Asher. Asher met her stare, his expression calm. And why is that? Evelyn took a step closer. Because Lucian wasn't wrong. You do think ahead. You're calculating, precise, and ruthless when you need to be. She tilted her head. You're the type of person who understands that the world isn't black and white. Serena bristled. So what? You think he's just going to betray everything for a power-hungry cult? Evelyn chuckled softly. I think Asher is smart enough to recognize an opportunity when he sees one. Her gaze never left his. You don't trust the guild. You don't trust authority. You operate in the gray, just like we do. The only difference is, you're still pretending otherwise. Serena turned to Asher, her expression hardening. You're not actually considering this, are you? Asher didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked at Evelyn, his crimson eyes flickering with something unreadable. You're pushing this hard. That tells me Lucian isn't just testing us, he wants us. Evelyn's smirk didn't waver. Of course he does. You're valuable. But that also means you have leverage. Serena frowned. Leverage for what? Evelyn's expression remained amused. Whatever you want. She stepped back, folding her arms. You can take time to think, but I wouldn't wait too long. If you hesitate for too long, Lucian might think you're not worth the trouble. She turned on her heel, beginning to walk away, but then paused, glancing over her shoulder. Oh, and Asher? Asher raised an eyebrow. Asher raised an eyebrow. Evelyn's smirk widened slightly. You may not have decided yet, but trust me, they already have a plan for you. With that, she vanished into the night, leaving them standing in silence. Serena turned to Asher immediately. You better not be considering this. Asher exhaled, looking out at the empty street. Of course not. Serena didn't look convinced. Then why didn't you just say no? Asher's eyes darkened slightly. Because if we shut the door completely, we lose an advantage. Serena crossed her arms. And what advantage is that? He glanced at her, his voice low and steady. We don't just need to stop the Red Fate organization. We need to understand them. If they think I might join, they'll show their hand. Serena exhaled sharply, rubbing her temples. I hate it when you do this.
Asher smirked slightly. Do what?
Act like you're playing some kind of long game while I'm stuck just trying to keep up.
He placed a hand on her shoulder. You do keep up.
That's why you're here.
She let out a slow breath, then nodded. Fine.
But the second this gets too dangerous.
I know, Asher said. We pull out.
Serena nodded reluctantly. Asher turned his gaze back toward the city, his mind already racing with the possibilities. The Red Fate organization had shown their hand. Now, it was his turn to make a move.
Into the web.
Asher and Serena left the guild behind, walking in silence through the dimly lit streets. The cool night air carried the distant murmurs of the city, drunken laughter from a nearby tavern, the shuffle of merchants packing up for the night, the occasional clang of metal from a blacksmith's forge still burning late. Serena exhaled sharply.
So, what's the plan?
Asher's gaze remained fixed ahead. For now, we wait.
Serena frowned. Wait? For what?
Evelyn just handed us a golden opportunity to learn more about these maniacs, and you're saying we should sit around.
Asher smirked slightly. Not sit around. Observe.
Serena folded her arms, clearly unconvinced. And if they decide we're taking too long? Then they'll reach out again, Asher said. They need us more than we need them, especially if they think I could be swayed.
Serena scoffed. Right.
Because you're so trustworthy.
Asher chuckled.
Exactly. They continued walking until they reached the inn, stepping into the dimly lit lobby. The innkeeper barely looked up as they passed, already accustomed to their late returns. As soon as they were inside their room, Serena shut the door behind them and leaned against it. So, how deep are you planning to go with this? Asher sat on the edge of the bed, removing his gloves. Deep enough to understand their real goals.
He glanced up at her.
Not just what they say they want, but what they're really after. Serena's expression darkened. And what if they're telling the truth? What if they are trying to shape the future? Asher was silent for a moment before answering. Then we need to know how, and more importantly why. Serena exhaled, running a hand through her hair. This is dangerous, Asher.
He nodded. I know.
She studied him for a long moment before sighing.
All right.
But I swear, if you even consider actually joining them.
I won't, Asher assured her.
But I want them to think I might. Serena muttered something under her breath before flopping onto the other bed.
I hate this plan.
Asher leaned back against the wall. That just means it's a good one.
She threw a pillow at him.
The following days passed uneventfully, at least on the surface. Asher and Serena went about their usual routines, taking on minor quests, gathering information, and keeping a low profile. But beneath it all, they were waiting.
Watching.
And then, 3 nights later, the message arrived. A sealed envelope, slipped beneath their door. Serena picked it up first, holding it between her fingers as if it might explode. I hate that I was right. Asher took the letter, breaking the seal. Inside was a single slip of parchment.
Midnight.
Abandoned chapel outside the city.
Come alone. No name. No signature.
Serena leaned over his shoulder, reading it. Yeah, that's not a trap at all. Asher folded the letter calmly. Of course it's a trap.
Serena scowled.
So you're going?
Asher stood. Of course. Serena groaned. Of course you are. She crossed her arms.
I assume come alone means I'm supposed to just stay here and wait? Asher glanced at her.
No.
It means you're going to follow me. Serena blinked, then smirked. Now that's a plan I can get behind. Midnight came swiftly. The abandoned chapel sat on the outskirts of the city, long forgotten and crumbling under time's weight. Ivy crept up its stone walls, and shattered stained glass windows cast fractured moonlight onto the overgrown floor. Asher stepped inside, his footsteps echoing in the silence. A single candle burned at the altar, casting flickering shadows along the pews. And there, standing in the dim glow, was Evelyn. She smiled at him. I knew you'd come. Asher remained still, his crimson eyes unreadable. You made sure of that. Evelyn tilted her head. And yet, you're still here. Which means you're at least curious. Asher glanced around. No guards. Evelyn chuckled. If I thought I needed them, you wouldn't be standing here. From the rafters above, Serena watched silently, hidden in the shadows, daggers at the ready. Evelyn took a step closer. Lucian has one question for you, Asher. Her violet eyes gleamed. Do you want to be part of shaping the future? Asher met her gaze, his expression unreadable. That depends. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. On. Asher's smirk was razor-sharp. Who gets to decide what the future looks like? Evelyn's smile widened. That's exactly what Lucian wants to show you. The air between them was thick with tension. Serena gripped her daggers, ready for anything. Asher exhaled slowly, his mind already calculating. Evelyn held Asher's gaze for a long moment before speaking again. You've already seen glimpses of what we can do, she said, her voice smooth and measured. The Red Fate organization is not just a cult, Asher. We don't blindly worship corruption. We control it. We understand what others fear, and we turn it into power. Asher remained impassive. And you think that power is enough to shape the future? Evelyn's smile deepened. We know it is. From her sleeve, she pulled out a small glass-like sphere, the same kind of memory crystal Asher had handed to the guild. But this one pulsed with a dark, eerie glow, like liquid shadows shifting beneath its surface. See for yourself, she said, tossing it to him. Asher caught the crystal and hesitated only a second before pressing his fingers against its surface. A surge of foreign memories flooded his mind. Visions of monstrous beings unlike anything he had encountered, men and women clad in crimson robes, standing in the ruins of what looked like a fallen kingdom. And at the center of it all, a man. His features were shrouded in shadow, but Asher could feel the weight of his presence. A single word echoed in the vision, spoken in a voice both ancient and commanding. Lucian. The memory faded as quickly as it came. Asher exhaled, placing the crystal down. And what exactly does Lucian want from me? Evelyn stepped closer, just enough that he could see the flicker of excitement in her violet eyes. He wants to meet you. See if you are someone worth bringing into our fold. Serena, still hidden above, tightened her grip on her daggers. Asher raised an eyebrow. And if I'm not? Evelyn's smile didn't falter. Then you go back to your life, free to make whatever choices you wish. No strings attached. Asher chuckled. Somehow I doubt that. Evelyn sighed dramatically. You wound me, Asher. You think we kill everyone who doesn't join. She tilted her head. No, only those who get in our way. Asher's gaze darkened, but his smirk remained. Reassuring. Evelyn shrugged. You have time to decide. I'll be in touch. With that, she turned and walked past him, the candlelight flickering as her form disappeared into the night. Asher didn't move for a few seconds, his mind already working through everything she had said. Then, from the rafters, Serena dropped down beside him. I really don't like her. Asher exhaled. You don't have to. Serena narrowed her eyes. So? Are you actually considering this? Asher glanced at the fading candlelight. I don't think we have a choice. Serena scowled. Of course we have a choice. Asher turned to face her, his expression unreadable. Do we? Serena clenched her fists. You're not seriously thinking of entertaining this, are you? Evelyn is part of the Red Fate organization. They're the enemy, Asher. Explore more at my virtual library empire. Asher exhaled, running a hand through his hair. She said if I refuse, they'll let me go. But we both know that's a lie. Serena crossed her arms. Damn right it is. The moment we walk away, we become loose ends. Serena crossed her arms. Damn right it is. The moment we walk away, we become loose ends. Asher nodded. Exactly. Which is why I need to at least pretend to play along. Serena's eyes widened. You're thinking of infiltrating them? It's the only way to learn what they're really planning, Asher said. They've been ahead of us this entire time. We can't keep fighting blindly. Serena gritted her teeth. And what if they see through it? What if they know you're lying and you walk straight into a trap? Asher smirked. Then I'll make sure they regret it. Serena groaned, rubbing her temples. You're impossible. I'm realistic, Asher corrected. Right now, we don't have enough power to take them head on. If they're willing to invite me into their ranks, I can use that to our advantage. Serena stared at him, her expression conflicted. This is reckless, even for you. Asher met her gaze. It's necessary. A tense silence stretched between them. Finally, Serena sighed. Fine. But if you're going to do this, you're not doing it alone. Asher arched an eyebrow. You plan to join too?
Serena shook her head. No. But I'll be watching. If anything feels off, I'm pulling you out, whether you like it or not.
Asher chuckled.
Sounds fair.
Serena huffed.
You say that now, but don't think I won't drag you out by force if I have to.
Asher smirked.
I'd like to see you try. Serena rolled her eyes but didn't argue further. A knock suddenly echoed at the door.
Both of them instantly tensed.
Asher turned, his blood sense flaring. A familiar presence stood on the other side.
Evelyn.
He glanced at Serena before stepping forward and opening the door. Evelyn stood there, her violet eyes gleaming in the dim hallway. I assume you've had time to think? Asher gave her a slow, unreadable smile.
I have.
Evelyn tilted her head.
And?
Asher met her gaze.
I'm in.
Evelyn's smile widened, satisfaction gleaming in her violet eyes.
A wise choice, Asher.
I knew you weren't like the others. Serena stiffened beside him, but Asher remained calm. Let's not pretend this is some great honor, he said. I'm not joining because I believe in your cause. I'm joining to learn the truth. Evelyn chuckled, stepping closer. And that's exactly why you're valuable to us. The ones who blindly follow never last long.
She glanced at Serena.
And what about your companion? Serena crossed her arms. I don't buy any of this red fate nonsense. Evelyn sighed theatrically.
A shame.
But expected. She turned back to Asher. I'll be taking you alone then. Serena immediately stepped forward.
Like hell you will.
Asher placed a hand on her shoulder, stopping her before she could get closer.
It's fine, Serena.
Serena shot him an incredulous look.
No, it's not.
I need you on the outside, Asher said calmly. If anything happens, I want someone who can act without being tied down by their rules.
Serena's jaw tightened.
She didn't like this.
Not one bit.
But she also knew Asher wasn't someone who made decisions lightly. After a long pause, she exhaled sharply.
Fine.
But if you don't check in, I'm coming for you.
Evelyn smirked. Oh, I like her.
Serena shot her a glare, but Evelyn only chuckled. Now then, Evelyn said, turning back to Asher.
Shall we?
Asher nodded, stepping forward. Serena watched him go, her grip tightening on her daggers. Evelyn led Asher through the city's darkened streets, weaving through narrow alleys until they reached a secluded courtyard. A lone carriage awaited them, its black exterior bearing no markings. Evelyn gestured toward it. After you. Asher didn't hesitate. He stepped inside, taking a seat against the cushioned interior. Evelyn followed, closing the door behind them. The moment the carriage began moving, Evelyn turned to him, her expression unreadable. Before we arrive, I have one question for you. Asher met her gaze.
Go on.
Evelyn leaned forward slightly. How far are you willing to go to change the future?
Asher didn't flinch.
As far as I have to.
Evelyn smiled. Good.
The carriage rolled forward, carrying him deeper into the unknown. The carriage ride was eerily smooth, the clatter of hooves muffled by whatever enchantment had been placed on the vehicle. Asher sat back, arms crossed, watching Evelyn carefully. She looked relaxed, almost amused, as if she were enjoying some private joke. I have to say, she mused, tracing a gloved finger along the edge of the seat, most people resist a little more before coming around. But you.
Her eyes gleamed.
You intrigue me, Asher. Asher met her gaze with calm indifference. I'm not here to amuse you.
Evelyn chuckled. No, I suppose you're not.
But you are here because you understand the bigger picture.
She tilted her head.
Or are you simply pretending? Asher smirked slightly. Does it matter? Evelyn's smile didn't falter.
Not at all.
In the end, actions speak louder than words. The carriage slowed, and Asher felt a subtle shift in the air, wards, he realized, powerful ones. Wherever they were going, it was well hidden. The outside world seemed to fade as the vehicle rolled into a space unlike any ordinary city street. Evelyn glanced toward the window. We've arrived. Asher followed her gaze as the door was opened from the outside. A hooded figure stood waiting, their posture stiff and formal. Beyond them, a towering stone archway led into what looked like an underground facility, its entrance lined with intricate red markings pulsing faintly with energy. Welcome to one of our sanctuaries, Evelyn said smoothly as she stepped out. Asher followed, his senses sharpening. He could feel the presence of many others inside, strong auras, some of them eerily unnatural. The hooded figure bowed slightly. Lady Evelyn. Evelyn waved a hand. This is Asher.
He'll be undergoing evaluation before anything else. The figure turned their hooded gaze to Asher. Though he couldn't see their face, he felt the weight of their scrutiny.
Evelyn smiled. Come along now.
The fun is just beginning. The Red Fates Sanctuary. Asher followed Evelyn through the towering archway, stepping into the underground facility. The air was thick with a strange energy, humming through the stone walls like a heartbeat. Red sigils pulsed faintly along the corridors, their intricate designs shifting as if alive. The deeper they walked, the more Asher noticed. Hooded figures moved silently through the halls, some carrying scrolls, others clad in armor that bore no insignia. He could sense them watching him, assessing him. Evelyn led him into a spacious chamber lined with glowing crimson crystals. A circular platform stood at the center, surrounded by runes similar to the ones outside. Several figures waited there, their faces obscured by deep hoods. One of them stepped forward. Their voice was smooth yet firm. So this is the one? Evelyn gestured toward Asher.
He is.
The figure studied him for a long moment before nodding. Then let's begin. Asher raised an eyebrow. Begin what, exactly?
Evelyn smirked. Your evaluation, of course.
We don't just let anyone into our ranks, even if they come highly recommended. Asher glanced at the glowing runes. And what does this test involve? The hooded figure answered. Strength, conviction, and compatibility. The last word lingered in the air, carrying an ominous weight. Asher stepped forward without hesitation.
Fine.
Let's get this over with. Evelyn's smile widened. That's the spirit. She gestured toward the platform. Step into the circle. Asher did as instructed, feeling the magic pulse beneath his feet. The moment he stood at the center, the runes flared to life, surrounding him in a crimson glow. The hooded figures raised their hands, and suddenly, the chamber around him shifted. The air grew heavier.
The walls blurred. And then,
he was no longer in the underground sanctuary.
Instead, he stood in a vast, blood-red void.
A deep, rumbling voice echoed around him. Show me your worth. The void around Asher pulsed like a living thing, its crimson light shifting with each slow beat. Then, without warning, the first attack came. A monstrous claw, black as night and wreathed in swirling red energy, slashed toward him from the emptiness. Asher reacted instantly, twisting his body as he summoned a crimson blade from his own blood. The impact sent a shockwave rippling through the void, his feet skidding slightly against the strange, unseen ground beneath him. A deep chuckle echoed through the space.
Not bad.
But you will need more than reflexes to survive this. Asher tightened his grip on his blade, his sharp gaze scanning the shifting void. He could feel them now, multiple presences, watching, waiting. He was being hunted. The next attack was faster. A barrage of crimson spikes erupted from the darkness, aimed directly at him. Asher's eyes gleamed red as he raised a hand, controlling the blood around him to form a shield. The spikes clashed against it, some melting into the shield while others shattered upon impact. Before he could counter, the ground beneath him shifted, and a massive force slammed into his back, sending him flying. He twisted mid-air, stabilizing himself just before another clawed hand swiped at him. This time he didn't dodge, he countered. Before he could counter, the ground beneath him shifted, and a massive force slammed into his back, sending him flying. He twisted mid-air, stabilizing himself just before another clawed hand swiped at him. This time he didn't dodge, he countered. Blood tendrils erupted from his back, spearing into the unseen enemy. A distorted roar echoed as the tendrils wrapped around something solid, pulling it into view.
A creature emerged from the void.
It was massive, towering over him with elongated limbs and a skeletal frame. Its body was wrapped in shifting shadows, its eyes burning red with malice.
Asher smirked.
So this is the test?
Then he moved.
His blade sang through the air, slashing at the creature's form. It retaliated with brutal swipes, but Asher weaved through its attacks, cutting deep into its limbs. His blood pulsed in response to the battle, his power heightening. Another voice echoed in the void. He adapts quickly. A second figure appeared, a humanoid wreathed in red mist, watching from a distance.
Asher didn't pause.
He extended his hand, and crimson chains shot from his fingertips, wrapping around the beast's neck. With a sharp pull, he dragged it toward him and drove his blade through its skull. The void trembled as the creature let out a final, ear-splitting screech before dissolving into mist.
Silence.
Then, the deep voice spoke once more. You are worthy. The crimson void shattered.
The test was simple.
I didn't even have to use a fraction of my power, Asher mumbled as the world around him began to break like pieces of a shattered mirror. A blinding light forced him to close his eyes. Asher's eyes snapped open. He was back in the underground chamber. The runes beneath him flickered, then dimmed. Evelyn stood at the edge of the platform, arms crossed, a satisfied smirk on her lips. The hooded figures whispered among themselves before the one who had spoken earlier stepped forward.
You passed.
Asher exhaled slowly, rolling his shoulders. Was there ever any doubt?
Evelyn chuckled. Oh, plenty.
But you handled yourself well.
The hooded figure nodded. You may proceed.
Asher's gaze flickered toward Evelyn. Proceed with what?
Evelyn's smile widened.
With the real offer.
She stepped closer, lowering her voice.
You've caught the attention of the Red Fate organization. We don't just want to test you, we want you to join us. I meant the upper hierarchy.
Asher's expression remained unreadable. Evelyn tilted her head.
Tell me, Asher, are you ready to reshape the future?
I don't like this woman.
Asher kept his expression neutral, despite the unsettling aura emanating from her. He ignored the feeling for now. He met Evelyn's gaze without flinching. The chamber was silent except for the faint hum of the runes beneath him.
How? He asked, his voice even. Evelyn nodded. That's right.
You've already seen what we're capable of, manipulating corruption, shaping the course of fate itself. We're not just some rogue cult. We're the architects of a new era.
Asher crossed his arms.
And what exactly does that new era look like? The hooded figure beside Evelyn spoke this time, their voice smooth and persuasive. One free of weakness. Free of the chaos that plagues the world. We do not simply react to fate, we control it. Asher's fingers twitched slightly at the word control. Evelyn took a step closer.
Think about it, Asher.
You, more than anyone, understand power. You know that the strong survive, and the weak don't.
She tilted her head.
But what if we could rewrite that? What if we could ensure that only those who deserve to survive get to shape the future? Asher's lips curved slightly, but there was no warmth in his expression. And who decides who deserves to survive?
Evelyn smirked. We do.
Asher exhaled slowly. So you think I'll just accept this and join you? The hooded figure chuckled.
You wouldn't be the first.
Many powerful warriors, scholars, and even nobles have aligned themselves with us. Some were skeptical at first, just like you. But once they saw the truth, they understood.
Evelyn leaned in slightly. And you, Asher. I know you're not naive.
You see the way this world works. You know that the guild, the kingdoms, the so-called heroes, they're just as corrupt as the monsters they claim to fight.
Her voice softened.
Join us, and you won't just be reacting to threats. You'll be eliminating them before they even have a chance to exist. A long silence stretched between them. Asher finally looked up, his crimson eyes glinting. And if I refuse? Then you'll just be another small part of the organization. Nothing more, nothing less, Evelyn said smoothly. She stood up, her expression unreadable. And don't think you can leave now. You're already marked, nothing can free you now. Asher's eyes narrowed as he recalled the notification he'd heard while fighting in that distorted world. Your soul is being invaded. The invasion is nullified. However, the enemy does not know it.
Asher smiled.
Then I'll let them believe I'm under their control for now. Let's see how their higher-ups operate. Evelyn laughed inwardly.
Poor guy.
The moment he realizes he's our pawn, he'll give up. Then in that case, I will join this upper hierarchy.
Very well then.
Tomorrow, I will lead you to our main branch, she said as she approached Asher and, to his irritation, settled herself on his lap. But for the time being, how about we have some fun? She whispered seductively, running a finger along his jaw. She gazed into his ruby-like eyes and smirked. You know, you look like a Prince Charming. That's why I insisted on bringing you in. I wanted you with me. Her fingers traced his chest as she leaned closer.
Be mine, Asher.
Forget that woman, Serena. She's not worthy of you.
Only me.
Only I am. She pressed herself against him.
Asher's smile vanished. He shoved her off.
I prefer my women pure. Not a whore like you.
Evelyn froze, stunned. You bastard.
What did you just say? She shrieked, her face turning red with rage. A pulsating green energy flared in her hand as she lunged at Asher's neck.
But Asher moved first.
In an instant, he seized her throat, lifting her effortlessly. Don't overstep your limits, Evelyn, he whispered coldly into her ear. or you'll see just how evil I can be. A sharp pain laced through her body as his grip tightened. She gasped, feeling his overwhelming power. Asher released her, letting her collapse to the ground. Without another word, he turned to leave. The hooded figure remained silent, merely watching. Evelyn glared at them.
"Why didn't you help me?" she spat. The figure scoffed.
"He is part of our grander plan. He passed with a full 10-star rating.
"He can be useful."
"Why would I waste my energy protecting a mere pawn like you?" Evelyn clenched her fists, her body trembling with fury. Asher didn't look back as he walked away, his smirk returning. Asher strode out of the chamber, his expression unreadable. The underground corridors stretched before him, dimly lit by the eerie glow of crimson runes embedded in the walls. Each step echoed in the silence, yet he could still feel Evelyn's furious glare burning into his back. "Mark me all you want," he thought, flexing his fingers. "You have no idea what you've just invited into your ranks."
He smirked.
Let them think they had control over him. It would make their downfall all the sweeter. The corridor opened into a vast, cathedral-like hall, where more hooded figures moved in quiet formation. The Red Fate Organization. A cult that claimed to control destiny itself. Asher had heard whispers of them before, but now, he was at the heart of their domain. A figure awaited him near the entrance, separate from the others. He was tall, dressed in obsidian black robes embroidered with silver markings, and his presence was different, calm, yet exuding immense power. "Asher," the man spoke, his voice deep and commanding. "I am Varian, one of the elders of the Red Fate. I will be overseeing your transition into our ranks."
"Transition?"
Asher echoed, his smirk never fading. "I didn't say I accepted anything yet." Varian chuckled.
"And yet, here you are."
"You already know refusing us is not an option." Asher's gaze flickered. "Is that so?" Varian gestured toward the massive archway ahead. "The real test begins now. You may have defeated a fragment of the void, but that was merely an initiation. If you truly wish to stand among us, you must face something far greater."
Asher crossed his arms.
"And if I decide I'm not interested?" Varian smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Then you will die here." The air grew thick with power. The runes on the walls pulsed violently. Asher could sense it, a shift in the atmosphere, as if reality itself was being rewritten.
"Ah, so this is how they play."
Varian raised a hand, and the ground trembled. The very space in front of them warped, and a massive gate formed from the shadows. Dark energy coiled around it like living tendrils.
"Step through," Varian commanded.
"And face the truth of fate itself."
Asher chuckled.
"You people sure love your theatrics." Without hesitation, he stepped forward, passing through the swirling darkness. The moment he crossed the threshold, his body felt weightless, as if he had entered a void beyond time and space.
Then, a whisper.
"Experience new tales on my virtual library empire." 1,000 voices. Memories, visions, fragments of something ancient flooded his mind. And standing in the abyss before him was a being unlike anything he had faced before. It was colossal, its form shifting between monstrous and divine. Eyes burned like molten stars across its elongated face, and jagged wings of shadow and flame stretched behind it. Its very presence warped the fabric of the void. "You dare walk this path?" The entity's voice resonated through the emptiness, each word vibrating through Asher's very soul. Asher exhaled, cracking his knuckles. His blood stirred in excitement. Finally, something interesting. With a smirk, he summoned his scythe. "This is your domain, right?" Asher asked, gripping his weapon tightly. The entity's smile vanished as it gazed at him. "You are the first to realize this. Most kneel and worship me as a god, yet you take up your weapon. What do you think this test was?" As it spoke, an unimaginable weight crashed down upon Asher, forcing him to his knees.
He's in the transcendent rank, Asher thought, feeling the immense power suppressing him. So, this is the guy who wants to become a god. He's already a pseudo-god.
Even with 100% of his power, he wasn't sure he could defeat this being. "I thought the trial was about defeating some guy inside, like in the red one," Asher muttered, still kneeling.
The figure laughed.
"You truly are amusing, so simple and straightforward," it said. "But I like your kind." It leaned closer. "You understand battle. Unlike the others, you do not grovel. That alone makes you different." The test was simple, the entity continued. "You must see me. The god you are going to follow from now on." Its slender finger reached out and touched Asher's forehead. A sudden force surged through him, something ancient and binding. A presence is invading you. Neutralized, however the enemy do not know this. Asher's vision darkened for a moment. I have given you a fraction of my strength. Remember, I only grant this after one proves themselves worthy. You did not receive it for free. You can go back now, the entity said, lifting its hand. The next moment, Asher's body was wrenched from the void. His eyes snapped open as he found himself back in the underground chamber. The runes beneath him flickered, then dimmed. You passed, and you even gained a blessing? Varian exclaimed, staring at Asher in disbelief. Asher glanced at him, unimpressed. Do you think everyone is as useless as you? He retorted. A badge materialized in midair and floated toward him. Asher caught it effortlessly. That is your badge, Varian explained. Our organization divides members by rank. You've been assigned rank 7 for now. If you continue to prove yourself, you'll rise further. Asher gave a slight nod and turned to leave without another word. Varian watched him go, clicking his tongue. TCH. Arrogant brat, he muttered before leaning back in his seat, ready to wait for the next recruit. Asher stepped out of the chamber, the dim torchlight flickering against the stone walls. He examined the badge in his hand, black metal with a crimson insignia carved into its surface. Rank 7. So, they have a hierarchy. He slipped the badge into his coat pocket and exhaled. He could still feel the lingering weight of the entity's presence, the so-called blessing settling into his core like a dormant ember. Whatever it was, he'd figure it out later. After all, unlike others, this SI really a blessing to him with no chains attached. Evelyn was waiting just outside, arms crossed, a smirk playing on her lips. Not bad, she mused, tilting her head. I half expected you to fail.
Asher scoffed.
Then you don't know me very well.
Evelyn chuckled.
Oh, I intend to. She stepped closer, her red-tinted eyes gleaming with intrigue. Now that you're officially one of us, there's something you should know. Asher raised a brow. And that is? She leaned in slightly. You may have passed the test, but that was just the beginning. Rank 7 means you're not a mere pawn, but you're far from the top. If you want to survive in the Red Fate organization, you need to keep proving yourself. That's so. Asher replied, unimpressed. And to prove yourself, you'll need to take on missions, Evelyn continued. One has already been assigned to you. Asher narrowed his eyes.
So soon? Evelyn grinned.
Consider it a welcoming gift. A test to see if you can handle the real work. She handed him a small scroll sealed with wax. Asher took it, breaking the seal and scanning the contents. His expression remained unreadable, but his eyes darkened slightly as he read the details. Stay connected through my virtual library empire. A retrieval mission. Target, a relic hidden deep within the Forsaken Ruins.
Threat level high. Expected resistance, unknown. Deadline, 3 days.
Evelyn watched his reaction carefully. Do you have a problem with the assignment? Asher smirked, rolling the scroll shut.
Not at all.
I was just hoping for something challenging. Evelyn laughed softly.
Oh, don't worry.
You'll get exactly what you wished for. Asher turned without another word and walked away, his crimson eyes gleaming in the torchlight. Asher left the chamber, the weight of the mission settling in his mind. The Forsaken Ruins, an abandoned, cursed land where few dared to tread. If the Red Fate organization had sent him there, it meant the relic was either highly valuable or extremely dangerous. Either way, he wasn't about to refuse. As he stepped into the underground corridors of the base, a familiar voice called out to him.
Oi, Asher.
He turned to see Reese, a fellow recruit, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. Unlike the hooded figures or Evelyn, Reese was dressed in practical combat gear, black leather reinforced with enchanted metal plates. His dark hair was messy, and his expression was one of mild amusement. I heard they threw you straight into a mission, Reese said, pushing off the wall. No rest for the wicked, huh?
Asher smirked.
Did you expect anything less? Reese let out a low whistle. Not really. But the Forsaken Ruins? That's a hell of a starting point. Most people would be dead before they even stepped inside. Good thing I'm not most people, Asher replied coolly.
Reese chuckled. True enough.
But you should know, there's a reason the organization hasn't retrieved that relic yet. The ruins aren't just dangerous. Something else is lurking there. Even high-ranking members have failed to come back. Asher's eyes narrowed slightly. And yet, they're sending me? Exactly. Reese folded his arms. Either they think you're strong enough to handle it, or they're testing how expendable you are.
Asher let out a short laugh.
I like how they think.
Reese shook his head. You're insane. Maybe.
Asher adjusted the grip on his scythe.
But tell me, Reese.
If you were in my position, would you be worried? Reese met his gaze for a moment, then grinned.
No.
I'd be excited. Then we understand each other, Asher said before turning away. As he walked down the dimly lit corridors, he could feel the eyes of other recruits and members watching him. Some whispered in hushed voices. Others simply observed.
It didn't matter.
By the time he returned from this mission, they wouldn't be whispering. They'd be watching. Asher made his way through the underground corridors, his footsteps echoing against the cold stone. He could feel the weight of unseen gazes following him, but he paid them no mind. Let them watch. Let them wonder. By the time this mission was over, they'd either respect him or fear him. His destination was the armory. If the Forsaken Ruins were as dangerous as Reese had implied, he needed to be prepared. The armory was a vast chamber lined with racks of weapons, enchanted armor, and strange artifacts. The air hummed with magic, the faint glow of runes illuminating the walls. A blacksmith worked in the corner, hammering away at a molten blade, while other recruits sorted through equipment. Asher walked past them, heading straight for the quartermaster's desk. A bald man with a jagged scar running down his cheek glanced up from his work. His nameplate read Garrick.
Ah, Garrick grunted. The new guy.
Evelyn sent word that you'd be coming. Asher raised an eyebrow.
Efficient. Garrick snorted.
She doesn't waste time.
What do you need?
Supplies for a mission to the Forsaken Ruins, Asher replied. Anything that'll keep me alive long enough to retrieve the relic. Garrick gave him a look. You sure you want to go there? Even the higher-ups avoid that place.
Asher smirked.
If it was easy, they wouldn't have sent me. Garrick let out a short chuckle before standing.
Fair enough. Follow me.
He led Asher deeper into the armory, past standard weapons and armor, toward a reinforced vault. With a wave of his hand, the runes on the door pulsed, and the metal locks clicked open. Inside, the room was filled with rare and specialized equipment. Garrick gestured to a selection of items. Take what you need, but don't get greedy. Everything here is limited issue. In actuality, he don't need anything from here, but why waste the chance to get something free? Asher scanned the options, his fingers brushing over a dark steel cloak, woven with shadow magic. It could help him move unseen. He took it without hesitation. Next, he grabbed 2 vials of crimson elixir, powerful restoratives that could accelerate healing. Then his gaze fell upon a pair of enchanted gauntlets, lined with runes that enhanced grip strength and reflexes. He picked them up, feeling the surge of energy as they adjusted to his hands. Finally, his eyes landed on a sealed black dagger, its edge laced with an unknown, shifting energy. He could feel its power even through the scabbard. Garrick raised an eyebrow. That one's unstable.
Asher smirked. Good.
He took the dagger, fastening it to his belt. With his gear secured, he turned back to Garrick. That everything? The quartermaster asked. For now, Asher said, adjusting his cloak. If I survive, I might be back for more.
Garrick chuckled. Then try not to die. I hate paperwork.
Asher exited the armory, his new equipment settling comfortably around him. The Forsaken Ruins were his next destination, but he had a few loose ends to tie up before heading into the unknown.
First, information.
Evelyn had given him the mission details, but there were always hidden dangers in places like the ruins, things the organization wouldn't tell him up front. And he had an idea of who might know more.
The archive.
The underground base had many sections, but the archive was one of the most guarded. It housed the organization's records, detailing everything from historical events to forbidden knowledge. If there was anything about the Forsaken Ruins, it would be here. Asher walked through dim corridors until he reached a massive iron door. A single guard stood outside, tall, clad in dark robes, their face obscured by a silver mask. The guard's voice was low and distorted. State your business. I need access to records on the Forsaken Ruins, Asher said plainly.
Silence.
The masked figure seemed to study him for a moment before stepping aside. The iron door creaked open, revealing rows upon rows of ancient books, scrolls, and crystalline memory shards. The air inside smelled of dust and old ink. Scholars in dark robes moved between the shelves, murmuring incantations as they preserved delicate pages. Asher's eyes scanned the vast collection before approaching the main desk, where an elderly scribe sat hunched over a tome. I need everything you have on the Forsaken Ruins, Asher stated. The scribe didn't look up. That knowledge is restricted.
Asher sighed.
I was sent there on a mission by Evelyn. Rank 7. He tossed his badge onto the desk. The scribe hesitated, then nodded slowly.
Very well.
He gestured, and a series of books floated from the shelves, landing on the desk with a soft thud. Asher opened the first one and began scanning the contents. The truth behind the Forsaken Ruins. The ruins were once a grand citadel, home to an ancient faction that dabbled in forbidden magic. A disaster wiped them out centuries ago, no survivors. The area is now cursed, those who enter rarely return. Some reports mention a guardian entity, an unknown force that hunts intruders. The relic he was sent to retrieve? It was sealed away to prevent something worse from escaping. He closed the book and stood up. Thanks for the help. Finally, he emerged from the base, taking a deep breath of the fresh air outside. Now, let's see what this entity really is, he murmured to himself. Before departing, he sent a secret message to Serena, explaining that he was leaving for a mission. He instructed her not to follow him and to act as usual to avoid suspicion. With his message sent, Asher pulled up the hood of his dark steel cloak and set off toward the Forsaken Ruins. The journey wouldn't be easy. Hostile creatures, unpredictable terrain, and whatever entity lurked within the ruins all stood between him and his objective. The ruins lay deep within the Black Hollow wastelands, a desolate and cursed region far from the organization's stronghold. Asher traveled swiftly, using lesser-known routes to avoid unnecessary fights. Despite his precautions, the wastelands were anything but silent.
Howls echoed in the distance.
Shadows moved unnaturally. Even the air felt wrong, as if the land itself was rejecting his presence. After hours of travel, he reached the outer edge of the Forsaken Ruins. The remains of ancient structures stood like broken skeletons, crumbling under time's weight. The ground was littered with shattered stone and rusted weapons, remnants of past battles long forgotten. Find your next adventure on my virtual library empire.
Asher took a step forward.
The moment his foot touched the ground, a chilling wave of energy pulsed through the air.
A dead land, Asher mumbled, sensing the eerie energy around him.
Dead lands were like forgotten graves, places where the deceased had been neglected for too long. The accumulation of excessive death energy caused corpses to reanimate, turning the area into a haven for the undead. The longer such a place was left undisturbed, the more powerful the undead within became. Asher moved forward cautiously, his eyes scanning the ruins for any signs of movement. The air was thick with death energy, causing an unnatural chill to settle over the land. His boots crunched against the brittle remains of old bones and shattered stone, the echoes fading into the eerie silence around him. The deeper he ventured, the more the land seemed to reject him. The energy here wasn't just stagnant, it was hungry. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled. Asher halted, tightening his grip on his scythe. He could sense it, a presence lurking beneath the surface. A deep, guttural growl rumbled through the air.
Then, the earth split open.
A massive skeletal hand burst from the ground, fingers clawing at the sky. Moments later, a towering figure emerged, an undead warden, its body wrapped in decayed armor, glowing runes pulsating across its bones. Its hollow eyes locked onto Asher, radiating pure malice. So this is what happens when a dead land is left unchecked.